Hi, everyone, and welcome to Zade Club with Bay. I am Bay, and this is Bay. Say hi, Bay.
Hi, Bay.
And this is Bay. Hi.
Hello.
And today we're talking about, well, since you read, Bay read both Haunting, Hunt. We're talking about Haunting. Okay, sorry.
Nobody's talk.
Okay.
We're talking about Haunting and Hunting Adeline.
I had to run. I had to get the book.
Can you not make those noises when the books we're talking about, please?
I was just running to my living room to grab the book. Yay!
We're talking about Haunting Adeline by H.D. Carlton.
Yeah. With the creepy hand on the front of it, embossed on the front.
Oh.
Yeah, so what is it? The cat and mouse duet?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Trigger warning.
Oh, yeah, we need to go through all of them.
Can you open to the trigger warning
I got
page,
it.
Please?
I'll do it in the actual. So I'm in.
Yeah.
Finishing highlights.
Open up the ebook.
Yeah, I have the ebook.
Good morning.
There's
Pat.
the playlist. Important note. Okay. Non and dubious consent. Graphic violence, human trafficking, stalking, child sacrifice, mentions of child death, explicit sexual situations, gunplay, somnophilia, bondage, and degradation.
We're going to be discussing all those things. Yeah, we'll probably also discuss
blood play.
Oh, because we'll be discussing Hunting Adeline. We'll be discussing kidnapping, sexual assault, knife play, PTSD.
Yes. There's also rape in the second one.
There's also rape.
There's rape in the first one, let's be honest.
That's dubious consent.
There's dubious consent. Moving on.
That is not dubious consent. She's like, no, please stop, please stop. And he's like...
That's the non-dub con, okay? That's the non-dub con. Non-consent, dubious consent.
So we'll be talking about all of those things. So that is the trigger warning.
Yeah, that's the expansive.
Sorry, I'm laughing at the trigger warning at the beginning of Hunting.
Nope. This is what I do now. I put tattoos on my forehead.
Hunting is, this book contains very triggering situations, particularly a four-letter word that starts with R and ends with E, though not between the main characters. Is that creative enough, Zon? I don't know who the fuck Zon is.
Amazon.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Her books got banned off Amazon for a while, which is hilarious because now it's a #1 Amazon bestseller. It's always #1 on some list.
Yeah. There is also graphic violence, sexual assault, explicit sexual situations, human trafficking, PTSD, and very particular kinks such as blood play, knife play, degradation, and somnophilia. So I think, yeah. Oh, this book is significantly darker than the first. Please take these warnings seriously. Your mental health matters.
Yes, it is a lot darker. And I never read Satan's Affair, so I don't know if there's...
there's like some slight necrophilia.
Sibby, what are you doing?
When do we want to do it? Oh, because
we can discuss Satan's Affair.
We'll do it in the order in which I read them. So we'll go Haunting, Satan's, Hunting.
Oh, you did Satan's in the middle. Okay.
Yeah, well, because I was like, Haunting is the one I have to read, so I'll do that. And I'm glad I did. I'm actually glad I did. I feel like Satan's actually belongs in the middle.
See, that's funny because on her recommended reading list, it's Satan's first.
Yeah, and she's wrong.
Well, I think I think because okay. All right. I'm gonna wrangle us. In order. We always do ratings first.
Yes.
So if you've been here a while, you know that normally we do a food rating or something, but I read, for funsies, and for brain off content, I read quite a number of romance novels, and when I rate them, I have a pretty consistent bar of how I rate them, and I presented this to you guys, and you guys approved. So, our 5-star rating, is who can say if I've been changed for the better, but I have been changed for good. 4 stars is just BRB looking clones. 3 stars is that sure was a romance novel, but it wasn't quite the clone I was looking for. 2 stars is it was a book, but something is fundamentally wrong with it. The writing, pacing, suspension of disbelief. And suspension of disbelief, by the way, is a super low bar because the situations that happen the situations that happen in romance novels, like fake dating, we're stuck in an elevator and oh no, I hate you.
Oh,
by
we
the
read
end of it,
that
we're
one.
married.
We read that one back years ago.
Yeah, and we're like snowed in, like whatever. There more insane shit happens in romance novels than anywhere else. So the suspension of disbelief bar is on the fucking floor, and you know. So and then, but Addie and I read a book when she was here for a weekend. That like Italian mafia book.
Yeah, that was.
And you and I were both like, we were
that
like,
was 1 or 2.
It was a 2, yeah. The suspension of disbelief was out the fucking window.
But it wasn't even. But it was fun to hate read because of the pregnancy thing. That was fucking hilarious.
It was hilarious. And then 1 star is like it's not even fun to hate read. I'm just not having a good time at all.
Yeah.
So I could be having a good time from like 2 stars to 5 stars.
Yep.
1 star is I finished it, but I'm not having a good time. And if a book, if I DNF a book, I just don't rate it.
Because it's DNF.
I don't feel like that's
exactly.
Fair.
I
don't feel like it's fair to rate DNF books.
Okay. So, well.
So for me, 5 stars.
Second, 5 stars.
Yeah.
I have like what else is?
I don't know if I've been changed for the better with this book, but
I've been changed
for good.
We also are doing our other one, and I think I said
Hunting
before you came in. No. I think I said before you came in. Our whelmed.
Oh, okay.
Overwhelmed.
I was overwhelmed.
Overwhelmed.
I don't think there was a moment where I was anything but overwhelmed.
So,
yeah, no.
This, for context, this is my 3rd time reading this book. It is TJ's 2nd time reading this book in a month. And it was Mara's first.
Yeah.
So we have different experiences because for me, every time I listen to it, it still has the same effect.
And I've only ever audioed it, whereas you guys have.
I've done both.
Visually.
I've done both now.
Yeah, we've done both.
Yeah, I try. I went to actually. I'm like, no, I'm gonna actually read it, but I just had stuff to do, so I'm like,
oh yeah.
I was actually worried that I wouldn't like it as much in audio. Honestly,
liked it a lot in audio.
I liked it a lot. I was actually really, but I was so worried.
I was so surprised. Yeah,
I was worried because it's written in present tense, and everybody knows I am.
I didn't even pick up on the present tense.
It's you guys know that's how good it is.
I hate present tense. It's my pet peeve with
horrible.
Books and so many romance novels. I don't know why they're written in present tense because the excuse that's given is a romance novel is like a thriller, and I'm like, no, it's not. We're casually starting a bakery in a small town in Wyoming. This is not a fucking thriller, but this is a fucking thriller, and it's an appropriate use of present tense, and she does such a good job because especially in like the first stretch of the book, I am stressed the whole time.
Before you actually meet Zade, I remember when TJ and I were reading this together on my couch,
I was so stressed.
She was like, I'm so like, this is super enthralling, and it is because the stalking scenes are so good.
I was so stressed out like reading it, and because thrillers, present tense is actually appropriate for thrillers. Mm-hmm. I've seen this is separate, but I've seen some thrillers where they even use second person, and it's done really well, and it's an interesting perspective to use. But
yeah, I've seen second person present tense as like snippets.
Yes, yeah, and it's really cool when it's done well. And also, I've seen, you know, some thrillers in present tense, and they're done, and when it's done well, it's done well. And this was done very well, and it, especially the first time I read it, I was so stressed out. I was I was just sitting on there on her. I was like, you know.
Yeah, I think I realized as well why I didn't realize that it was in present tense, because the prologue is in present tense, and with a lot of books with this kind of feel to them, etc., prologues are often just an out of context part of some sort of story initially, obviously, and that it's not weird to be written in. It's not weird to be in present tense, and I think my brain had just gotten used to it by the time the prologue was over.
Well, because the prologue even is so suspenseful.
Yes.
It's just.
And so, yeah, and it's actually like, I don't know, it just realized the writing just sucked me in. Like,
I read these books without realizing.
That's how good it is. Because normally, the first thing any of us would bitch about is, oh my god, it's in present tense and it's so fucking annoying.
Well, like, for example, the Immortal series, we read all 5 of those books. All 5 of them were in present tense. I never got used to it. I couldn't handle it. Also, I recently, it's like a couple months ago, you know, got a Kindle Unlimited subscription. I've been reading a lot. Like, I mean, more than 50% of romance novels are first person present tense. I notice it every time I read, except for this book. This book was like the only time I didn't notice it, because it's an actual thriller. And thrillers,
you go.
When I've read them, I haven't noticed it, you know, because it's actually an appropriate use of it, and I fucking hate it when romance novels do it. Sorry.
Yeah,
it's my biggest pet peeve.
Last time we talked about present tense, which was a couple weeks ago, I think, I mentioned as well, like Hunger Games, that series that's in present tense,
and that kind of makes sense. Yeah,
it works with that series, because especially like it's like in the first book, because like you're experiencing the whole thing with her, and then you know it's a thing, and it happens, and whatever. What's the series with the factions and the thing that was
Divergent?
Yes, that. Divergent. That was present tense as well. Oh, I've just been interrupted by a child. Thankfully, we're talking about present tense right now. Give me a second.
The other thing I want to talk about is the narration. So, like most romance novels, this is dual perspective, and it's first person, and so we got dual narration. But this book actually does something that I know you guys found a little jarring at first, but it's one of my. I've only ever seen it done one other time. It is my favorite way for dual narration. I'm sorry. I love it when this happens, and I'm so glad they did it this way, because I hate it when it's not done this way. And so even when we're in Adeline's perspective, if Zade is talking, the male narrator is doing his lines, which thank freaking God.
Because there's no way I could have had a woman narrator say anything that Zade says. Because that's the thing. That's what I like so much about this book, is Zade has the best one-liners. Like,
he does.
Ever.
He does. He's got amazing lines. And here's the thing about a lot of romance novels when they're audiobooks, which is why I don't really enjoy reading a lot of them. And also, like, so many of the same narrators do a lot of these books that, like, I know that they're not going to be done this way. So, like, at this point, and it's just not a common thing to do. But I really enjoy it when it's done this way, because when you're listening to a book that's dual perspective, and they don't do this with the dialogue, when you're reading the woman's point of view, right? The way that the female narrator will do the male voices, you know, she does them a certain way. Usually it's not very sexy.
Yeah, exactly.
But at the same time, also, you're getting used to the way that she is doing the guy's dialogue. And then you switch to the guy. A lot of times their line reads are completely different. So it feels like a different character talking.
Exactly.
And then also, usually his voice for the female main character is completely different. And his line reads for her are completely different. And so it's pretty jarring. And I like it less. And I so much prefer like that. And if you've never heard a book be done like that. It can be a little like, huh?
It
Like
was
the first time
surprising at first.
the first time I read
Yes.
a book like that, listened to a book like that, I was like, what's going on? But then as
I
I
got
got
used to
used to it, I was like,
I got used to
honestly,
it real quick.
I was like, this is the move. There is no other move.
Yeah, no, I did message you guys about this as well, though. Like, can you just imagine though being that, especially him, right?
Because that's what we're saying.
His
He
dialogue in
has
her chapters.
such good lines. There's no way H.D. Carlton
I know,
had it
but-
right. There's no way a woman would have been able to say those and it still have
I
the same
know.
effect.
But do you think, like, obviously, like he's just sitting, like, I don't know, like probably like in a room, like one of, like, just with soundproofing or something, just sitting in a little pod that he's made to narrate his books, and he's just like, okay, what dialogue do I have to read? Oh, okay.
Having actually worked with audiobook narrators, probably what he had was the entire manuscript, but just with
probably.
especially
Like
with
highlights on Zade's and all
because
the
I
male
know
lines.
that like when we do the Blackwoods audiobooks, there are parts where
we highlight
we
certain
highlight
sections.
because
we need effects.
because we need him to like double up on something, and so we'll highlight it.
Mm-hmm.
But like, so they have the entire, because like, yeah, they would have the entire,
Yeah.
so they would have the entire
And-
manuscript. Because the other thing is
And
that
you can
like
tell
when you
'cause
send
he's
it,
got the right tone to what he's saying.
yeah,
So he knows
because when
how
you
it's meant to be
send it
said.
off as well, they edit it and put it together. So whoever's directing it, whether it's just the person reading it or it's like a studio that that has narrators and is directing it.
It does say that it was there was a One and Only produced it, so I'm guessing someone from One and Only spliced
Edited
it
it together.
Yeah. But they were also probably directing it, but so they would also have the entire manuscript because they would have to know where every single line of dialogue goes. But if it's a whole studio, you know, they might have like them together or something. And they might just be recording everything like at the same time, or I don't know, like, you know.
Yeah, I was like, just the more I was thinking about it, I'm just like sitting there thinking like, just imagine this guy just having to go, okay, record. That's right, baby. I am your god.
Oh, my favorite line I think I've ever read in any book is, "That's right, I am your fucking god." The audacity. I can't get over it. I can't get over it. It's just the audacity.
That's what I think that's what we were initially talking about this when I was visiting you.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about like, why is he so hot? And I was like, you know what it is? It's a line that wicked the audacity of this bitch. I was like, that's what it is.
Yeah. Well, I will say though, like, I don't know if I've just seen too many movies or something, but like I'm like, because I ended up going to Goodreads as well, and especially like with Hunting, a lot of people were like DNF'd at around 80% because they're just like, this was just torture porn, nothing but torture porn. And I'm like, is that really the problem you have with this? Because those scenes, like, I wasn't at all, like all the trigger warnings, not at all bothered, like listening to those scenes at all. I was just like, okay. I'm like, there were times when I had to walk away from like my children because I'm like, I can't be listening to this while in their presence.
No,
but beyond that, I was like, my problems are all about the relationship.
Well, yeah.
Not about.
So real quick though, let's go ahead and rate
Hunting. I don't know.
So
I feel like that based on that rating, I feel like there's kind of only like the one option as well.
Hunting for me hovers between 2 and 3.
Yeah, same. It's 2.5 for me because I think about what I've rated as 3 stars, and I don't like it as much as what I've rated as 3 stars, but it doesn't feel like.
Because I feel like here's the thing. What did I like so much about Haunting? And it was the stalking. Because what did I immediately want right after that? I was like, more stalking books. And guess what there are none of? That. we looked for
There's
hours.
nothing that hits like this, and we have tried to find it.
Yeah,
And we're like, fuck, we're just gonna write one now.
It was funny. I saw there was on TikTok there was like some book talker thing, and like, you know how like the things where like you get the two options and you have to like break your neck to choose. And I think it was all like dark romances or whatever. And she's getting through. She's like, that one, that one, that one, and then haunting Adeline comes up. She's like, haunting Adeline, haunting Adeline, haunting Adeline.
That would be me.
She's not even like reading the other one. She's just like breaking a neck.
It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I know when I win. I know what I want.
And like nothing else hits like it. And the thing is, all the stuff that was really fun about Haunting, nothing about that is in Hunting.
It's just getting over trauma.
It's a completely different experience, and it's not.
It's just experiencing trauma. And I literally, when we read the second one together,
it had Sibby.
It did have Sibby though. That is a saving grace because Sibby is changed and beautiful.
And you know what? I will say Sibby is actually much more enjoyable when you're not inside a head.
I'm sure. I'm very sure.
The other thing is that
because we get to experience her sex scenes quite vividly, and when you find
that's what I've heard,
and it and like that, like their henchmen are fucking each other while they're fucking her, and
I know it's like stuff, also just like an orgy book.
Oh, it's nothing but orgies.
Yeah, and that's why I was
and
like,
I said, a little bit of necrophilia,
which is so weird.
I'll explain the necrophilia to you when we get to
the other thing is that I already know that I don't really like books where we follow the same characters into the second book. If it's just like purely a romance novel, I know I'm always going to like the second book less.
Same.
Because I just if the primary plot is the romance, you don't need a second book. This is my hot take. You never need a second book. Ever. It's always unnecessary.
You have to have
unless you end
need 2 or 3.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Yeah, but she didn't.
Ends on a cliffhanger. Yes.
The thing is that it wasn't necessary. We didn't need it. They were together. The book's over. The story's over. Like that's the thing. And it's always the case with like primary romance books that whenever the attempt is to extend it beyond a single book, it falls apart completely.
Yeah. Because look, we all know as well that like in terms of romance genre books, in reality, like they're breaking up for 2 months after. Like in reality, her and Zade, she's getting a restraining order. She's moving to the middle of the fucking forest.
In reality, yes. Yeah, I don't think that. Yeah, no.
This is like the most toxic fucking relationship.
Okay, and they get married.
I'm talking reality.
I know.
Reality. Okay.
Yeah, but it does make me happy to know that they one day do get married and have babies and create more of them.
Can you imagine?
That's terrifying.
That is terrifying, actually.
Also, I'm not gonna lie. I could tell that this was written by a woman, just based on how often he was like, her belly's going to be filled with my babies. Like that got mentioned like about 80 times.
He really wants to have his babies. Yep.
And I'm like, I feel like a man writing this would rarely, if ever, mention actually impregnating her.
How much? Yeah.
Because look, men do think about that, sure, but not 80 times in the course of the book. I feel like.
Probably. I don't know. I don't live in a man's brain. Maybe they do often think about like, yeah.
And now I'm thinking Noah does that because Bae is really, really quiet.
I don't know. Like I'm thinking of a specific instance that I'm not going to talk about on stream that has nothing to do with Noah, but I'm
someone wanted to knock you up and have you and
not me, but a thing I know about. Okay, it was.
You cannot.
I'm gonna
talk
say
about
vaguely.
it.
I was on
Okay.
vacation with some people, and two of those. This guy brought a girl home. They went to a tent.
Oh, I know what you're talking
Did
about.
boinking. He came back in, and he was like, she said, "Put a baby in me, daddy." And I didn't know I liked that, but apparently I liked it.
That's right. Okay, God. I remember that story.
And this was around breakfast. Everybody's hungover, and we were all like, too early to deal with that. But thank you for letting us know. Thank you for sharing with the class. That's what I was thinking about. That's what I was
don't
like.
think it was 80 times a book. I don't think he's thinking about that 80 times a book. Though.
That's what I was like.
Maybe
That's
you
what
should
I
check
was
in with
thinking and
him.
remembering. I was like, well,
Yeah, maybe you should get that person that was responsible for that trip to just check in and make sure that that person's okay.
oh, I already know he's not okay.
Yeah, okay.
He's not. He's never
Anyways,
been okay.
And for hunting, I ranged which. Look, for the first half of the book, I was overwhelmed.
Very.
And then the second half, I alternated between very underwhelmed and very overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I said,
look, the situation I texted my husband about, I was overwhelmed. Okay,
yes.
I was really overwhelmed.
Yes,
because it's.
But also, like
I
overwhelmed
feel like
in not in a good way either.
Yeah, because it was like, it felt like it was just trying to be more taboo.
Yeah, like, look, you know, if I'm getting repeatedly rape-a-doodled and sliced up, I feel like we don't need to reclaim the knife. I feel like we can just go, you know what? Fine, no knives in the bedroom ever.
Yeah, right?
I feel like that can just be our boundary. No knives in the bedroom. Because guess what? I'm pretty sure, I've never had to explicitly state it, but I'm pretty sure I already have that boundary in place.
Same. I've never had to be like...
me too. I've never actually, nobody's ever asked, so I've never had to think about it.
Yeah, right? No one's ever been like, hi, can I bring a knife into this situation?
Yeah, shockingly, nobody's ever asked to stab me.
So I feel like that's not something that needs to be reclaimed because, and look, babe, like, I know that I don't know if you still low-key vomited a bit in your mouth because you're a lot more desensitized to the romance stuff now, but like, after like Adam kisses away all of her
here's the thing though, that is vomiting because it's just like, look, I love Patty to death. You know I love Patty, but watching Adam and Mercy do anything is like watching my parents have sex, and it hurts me. Like I just have a visceral reaction.
But the point I was going to make though is I feel like that's a much healthier way to reclaim your body after experiencing trauma is to just, like he didn't have to slice into the cuts to make them his. He could have just, like kissed them like Adam did. He could have just kissed them.
I don't know.
And associated positive memories with them. And he's like, no. We're going to pretend.
I'm just going
to recreate scars.
Yeah, I see, and the second one just rubbed me the wrong way, but the first one is and like
two of them were getting,
top 5 favorite books.
Hot. And the two of them were getting so hot and bothered by like each other's blood the rest of the book.
Yeah,
I'm just
and I was like, I just don't like it. It didn't hit the same.
That wasn't for me, honestly.
There were things about the second book I did like. I did like them doing the culling. When they're like the second culling. I liked that.
I liked that they got engaged at the end.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
You know how like when she was kidnapped, how they had to like do the maze thing? When she was kidnapped?
Oh, yes.
And then they did it with them?
Yes.
Yes. I liked that. I liked that. Because I'm just like, this feels like karma.
I like that they got engaged. That's sweet. I don't like the circumstances under which they got engaged because it's gross. And her exact line is like, "Are you proposing to me because I let you do anal?" It's just a lot of which like for the whole book that it is, like anal is like such a vanilla thing for them to do, right? He has a gun in her vagina. Right?
Yep.
That's their first sexual contact is a gun in the vagina.
But the anal rubs me the wrong way. I don't know what.
But it's different though because he's just so big. Oh, and also, yeah, like what was it? I'm pretty sure the actual line was, "You're too big, please don't." And he's like, "No, we're doing it." And she's like, "But please don't. You're just too big."
Yeah. Listen, it's but whatever.
Yeah. Here's the thing. For whatever reason, it's that is super common in romance novels.
Yeah.
Like both you are too big and also anal in general.
Yes.
Yeah. Did we actually get a size?
You never get a size. It's always generically the largest to have ever larged. And
and of course all the Raper-Doodle guys had like the tiniest ever.
Oh yeah. Well, because that's just the trope.
I know.
I also for a moment just want to talk about the height of men in romance novels. So I want to say like back in like the year 2000 or something, generically like look, men in romance novels have always been tall. But back in like a couple years ago, maybe like 2000, let's say. A tall guy was like 6 foot to 6'2".
Like a normal.
Let's be honest, 6 foot to 6 tall, 6 to 6'2" is tall. Average.
Because that is tall. 6'3" was like now
you're a giant.
every
if he's
man,
not 6'8", fuck off.
Now every man in a romance novel genuinely is 6'4" to 6'5", 6'6".
Yeah.
And they're just getting taller.
I think Zade is supposed to be like 6'4" or 6'5".
And here's the thing. I'm not saying like that there aren't people who are 6'4" in the world. I did go on a couple dates with somebody who was like 6'7". Those people do exist.
Yeah, they do.
I'm just saying like that I don't know, it's getting a little silly, guys.
Yeah, like look, I went to school. Okay, this guy he was exceptionally tall. Except by the time we graduated high school, he was 6'11", and he grew an inch or two since then. Yeah, so tall. But like, you know how tall the doors in like gyms are and everything, like the school gym.
Yes.
That he had to duck to get in those doors. Yeah, so very tall. However, he was always the easiest person to find because, like, you just have to look. No one's head came above his shoulder. So that tells me that all the other people in the school were under 6 foot.
Yeah.
Because his neck and his head was over a foot. And no one came up to his shoulder. And yeah, no one's that tall. Like, oh. Also, Zade is like a freaking. So
he's also supposed to be built like
or multi-billionaires are there in the world. There's like a fraction of a percent, like of his level of wealth, right?
Well, a fraction
of a percent is like his height. Then and then whatever percent has the heterochromia. As well. Like, he's like a 1 in
a million and a billion.
6 billion or something.
Yeah. Okay, but not only that, I just want to talk like real quick on the size thing. He's also supposed to be built like a fucking brick house. Like he is tall, but like he's supposed to be like
built.
He's massive.
seen that video of like the 7'1" cosplayer walking through the street and he's like built like a fucking Mack truck and he's dressed up as like some. I'll see if I can find it.
Also, I don't know if you've seen this this viral art going around on TikTok. You probably have, of like Zade.
Oh my god!
No,
but
I
the
have
thing
not.
is, it was that I found like kind of weird. Not that wasn't. But also he looks like he's 20 in that.
Yes, I'm gonna send you the TikTok.
He
Mara.
looks so young.
Oh, I found the open copy link. There we go. I found the video. Here we go.
And I feel like
22 seconds.
because he's supposed to be like in his 30s, right?
I think.
I mean, he's gotta.
I think he's 32. Wait, give me a second.
Okay.
How old is Zade Meadows? There we go. It came up. So she's 26, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
How old is Zade haunting Adeline?
His face in that fan art, he looks like he's like 21.
Yeah, he does look.
Zade is early 30s.
Yeah. That's the only thing that bothers me about it. I'm like, just age him up a tiny bit.
Yeah, she's 26, he's 32. Yeah, did you see the guy?
Yes.
You big boy.
What is it with like
What do you do? What do you do if you see that walking down the street, by the way?
What is it with like exactly 6-year age gaps? Like, what is that about?
I feel like that's a fine age gap.
No, I mean, but like, why? It's always 6 years though.
Because it's a good age gap.
Yeah, yeah.
Look, when you think about it, right? Typically, men tend to be the more planny in terms of like life plans. So they're just like, no, this isn't feasible yet, and we're like, but baby, and ticking time clock in my belly. Like, my ovaries are going to expire. So therefore, he gets an extra 6 years to get his shit together.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I feel I say this with a 6-month age gap, but
yeah, we both have 2-year age gaps.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's like if I have a 1 year 10-month age gap with Christian, because right now
I wish I had a bigger age gap. I look like I have a bigger age gap, but it's 6 months. My husband looks about 10 years older than me. I love him, but he works outside he works outside all day every day. Like, he doesn't wear sunscreen. It is what it is.
Should we start on plot?
40 no, we have to do.
Should we talk about characters? Okay, there's Adeline. She's a fuck knuckle. Author, not you.
Fuck knuckle.
Oh, come on. She falls in love with the guy stalking her.
Yeah, but that's like the whole.
We all fell in love with the guy stalking her. We also.
Yes, but if that happened in reality, you wouldn't. You fell in love with him because he's a piece of paper.
Yes,
that's true.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes,
we fell in love with him because he's fake.
So yes, Adeline Riley. She is. It's spelled differently for one. Spelled wrong.
Yes.
For one.
The other thing, though, I will say is that half the time that you're like, "Aw," is because he just remembers stuff about her. It's just because it's like, oh,
he's a stalker.
He's doing right. She's right. Which I'm like, is that really the bar? We're just like, oh,
that is the bar. Yeah, she's an author. She has just moved into her.
Do we know what genre she writes? Were you ever told?
No.
Apparently, stalker romances now.
Dude, she would make some bank on writing because she would be so like knowledgeable in it. Whatever. Anyways, she is an author. She just moved into her family's mansion called Parsons Manor on the outskirts of Seattle, Washington. The house is haunted canonically, but it's not like scary haunted. It's just like there's ghosts around, and Addie is like, ugh. Because the ghost, one time the ghost of her great grandmother like takes her to the attic, and she's like, great grandma, or it's Gigi. She calls her Gigi. She's like, Gigi, why are you taking me to the attic? And Gigi's ghost is just like,
it's not her great grandmother, it's her grandmother.
No, it's her.
No. Her great grandmother was the one that was murdered.
Yeah.
Gigi is. Oh, that's right.
No,
Yeah, sorry.
Nana is grandma.
Nana
Gigi
is. Yeah,
yeah.
that's right. Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry, I mixed the two up in my head for a second.
Yeah. And yeah, that's the premise there. Zade Meadows.
Oh, all the side plots in the first book.
Yeah, see, I like the side plots in the first book. That's why,
I do too.
because there's more going
so
on.
many.
Um,
It gave us a break.
it did, and it made us get to know the characters, which is
honestly,
nice.
and for once,
This is
so
a
most
really,
of the time,
really
like
long book.
when there's a side plot in a romance novel, I'm just like skip. Like I'll skim it, but like you don't need it.
Yeah,
the breaks were actually helpful.
appreciate. Yeah. It's
You
a
know,
5-star
like,
book. What can I say?
Like when I say it's long, right? The romance books that we have previously done on this were like the audio books were about 6-7 hours max.
This one's what?
I think this was about 14.
Yeah.
15.
The first time we read it, because we read it on paper, I didn't even notice how long it was.
So let me tell you how many pages it is.
Like it's long for a book. Like just
It's 150,000 words. It's 150,000 words.
It's long.
It is 533 pages.
Yeah, it is 15 hours and 44. Well, almost 45. So we'll round it up. 15 hours and 45 minutes long.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, my opinion in general about book lengths is that a single perspective book usually has no business being over 120,000 words. Even if it's an epic fantasy, if it's single perspective, you have no business.
Oh, if it's single perspective, but a lot of the time it's a multi-perspective.
No, I know, but what I'm saying is like and then on top of that, most romance novels have no business being over 120,000 words.
I don't even think they have any business being over 100,000 for the most part.
For the most part, yeah. But like this does it very well. You don't notice the length.
Well, and again, I think it's because the side plots and stuff.
Yeah.
I've got a question as well, like the word count. That doesn't count the letters, so it's actually longer because the letters are pictures.
Yes, exactly. And the letters take up between like 1 and 2 minutes at the end of every chapter, or most chapters. I have the Goodreads up, and I always like looking at the reviews for this book. One of them is reading this book is not enough. I need to fuck Zade. You wouldn't actually want to, though. He would actually be terrifying. You'd be terrifying in real life.
That's the fun of it.
Yeah. Whatever. Anyways, so those were the two main characters. Zade,
well, we didn't even talk about Zade.
Well, Zade Meadows is the stalker. We don't know his name for a long time. We don't even know his last name until the second book.
It's just so funny that like as you're reading, by the time you actually learn his name, you're like, oh yeah, I don't know his name.
Yeah, you're like, oh, I haven't even fucking wondered.
But everything you do.
He's a good guy, but he's a bad guy.
Is he a good guy? I don't feel like he's a good guy.
Well, he kills pedophiles. That's good.
But you know what, though? I said this to you when
that's actually some. Sorry, guys.
Sorry. I said this to you as we were reading it. It's so funny because I was like, first of all, I read the trigger warnings. I knew that it was a stalker romance novel. And then once you get into it, she's like, don't worry, he's a good guy. He kills pedophiles. And I was like, you didn't have to tell me that.
Yeah,
that's because here's the thing. I'm already reading it. I'm already on board.
Yeah, that's one of the things where I'm just like, do we have to spend this much time of this book being like, everything he's doing is fine because he rescues children? I'm like, but he's also stalking her and raping her with a gun. And cutting off people's hands. Oh, also, I didn't. And also, like, they had to make the guy that he kills, that she takes home, they had to make him like a massive,
yeah, of course they did.
Domestic abuser, because, like, heaven forbid he just be a psychopath. Like, he was, he even said, I would have killed him anyway for touching her.
Yeah.
And it's just like, well, let's just make him a nice guy then. Look, and then the first guy, he cuts out his tongue.
Yeah.
But it's fine because he rescues children.
Yeah, it is. So he runs a anonymous organization that's full of hackers and stuff to take down child sex rings and just general like sexual trafficking, human trafficking in general. And he is very good at his job.
He was, and then he kills them. Not the people he's rescuing, the people.
Yeah, no. He also, we find out in the second book, he has this whole house. He's filthy rich. He has this whole house where some of the women go if they have nowhere else to go, to like where they have therapists and like all of this stuff. So like we stand. I'll make the rules.
Other than the stalking, he's a good guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, in Satan's Affair, right? Because like, look, Sibby's batshit crazy, right?
Oh yeah.
But she actually can smell. She can smell when someone's good or bad. But like, and she mentions that
that's like canonical. Yeah.
Yeah. But it goes into it more, right? And she's the reason why she initially tries to go kill Zade in Haunting is because she sees Adeline and Dyer come in and do their thing, and she'd already smelt Mark and his people, and she's like, oh no, and then she sees Zade coming through, and he's clearly like looking and because he's trying to find them, and she's like, he also smells bad, but weird, but bad, and then by the end she realizes that Zade is like her, where they both are dark souls, but they don't use their darkness for evil. Unless apparently he's like, oh, I just walked past this girl and saw a picture of her, and now she's mine. Because that's what happened. That's what happened. Like he walked past, saw a picture of Adeline, and was like, "That's
I'll
mine
have that."
Yeah, that's fine now. Yeah. So Sibby, we don't really get to know her this book that well. We get to know her next book, but she is.
Sibby is Sibby.
Sibby
doesn't know how old she is. She thinks she's in her 20s.
She's psycho. But we love her. She has imaginary friends. It's called her henchmen that she has sex with.
Yeah. Okay. You know what? Let's just talk about.
Yeah. Tell us about Satan's Affair.
Okay.
So a good opening.
Like a day or two before they get to Seattle, right? And she kills someone because she hides out in like this haunted house thing, and when someone comes in that smells bad, she kills them. In
Satan's Affair. Satan's Affair is a traveling, very popular traveling Halloween attraction.
Yeah,
that's what Satan's Affair is.
But she is just the mere act, because she's straddling this guy and she's stabbing him in the chest, and just that makes her on the precipice of orgasming. So then once he's dead, she starts grinding up against him until she
that's the mild necrophilia
over him.
Got it.
Yes. Yeah. So like there's no actual, but she's rubbing herself off
but it's
and then she just has a very explicit multiple orgies with her henchmen
who are imaginary.
Yes. And then they go to Seattle, and she's like starting to be like, whatever happens if if more than one person who smells like a demon comes in, and then that happens, and she's like, oh no, and then Zade's like, let's team up and be buddies, and she's like, okay, I'll kill you later then, and he's like, you can try.
So Zade's in Satan's Affair.
Yes, but that's why I'm saying it should be read in between, because because you know how for him it kind of cuts off, and then we don't see him until he meets up. Like,
with Addie.
Met up with her after. Mm-hmm. No, we get to see all that.
Oh, yeah. No, you shouldn't read that first at all.
Yeah, so I'm glad I read
it
in between.
Part of like the huge excitement of Haunting Adeline is like
you have no idea who this guy is. Well, you do, but you don't.
Well, no, but you don't though, because even when you're in his head, you don't know who he is. He's just some guy who saw this poor woman at her book signing and just went, yep. And like, that's it. Because here's the thing. I saw a complaint about that, and it was like, he has no reason for liking her. And I'm like, I think that's the point though, because, he's just so psychotic that he saw a woman and he went, I'm gonna eat it, and I don't care. And you're just like, ah, and then like he's following her around, and he's like,
Yeah.
he's like, I don't care, you belong to me. I'm gonna cut off his fucking hands. And you're like, oh my god, because like obviously you've read the part where he just saw her and decided, and you're like, he's crazy. He's gonna cut off his hands. Don't do this. Like I was so stressed with the hand. We'll get to it, but I was so stressed because like, and so it's a huge part of it, like not knowing, and then you don't even know his name. And so by the time you get to his name, you know, like you're very slowly being drawn in.
Satan's Affair. You know it, like you learn his name in that book. He introduces himself. So
I don't like that either.
Yeah, I think in between is good because it gives you her perspective and like what you know, and you can appreciate how crazy she is after getting an implication that she's crazy. And then, but then you know all of her backstory for the second one, which I do think is actually quite helpful because you know how there's a reference to occults and stuff like that. Yes. We learn about her past.
Okay, yeah,
like with the cult stuff.
HD Carlton, not that you'll ever see this, but
in between is that's my recommended rating order.
Yeah, like make it a 1.5.
Yeah, instead of a 0.5, it's a 1.5.
Yeah.
So then it's so fucking funny though, right? Because you know how like the cops come and Zade has to leave, and he's like, "Come with me," and she's like, "I can't leave my henchman behind." So then they get into a car, and she's like, "I can't drive." So one of her henchmen's driving. It turns out she's actually driving, but she's paranoid schizophrenic, so she just hallucinated herself sitting in the passenger seat. And you know this, right? Because you already have a suspicion. She's like, that's what it is, like that it's paranoid schizophrenia. Which it turns out it is, but let me find, because there was another diagnosis as well. So let me just quickly find that. Paranoid. Severe psychosis and paranoid schizophrenia. There we go. So she gets arrested because she crashes the car because she can't drive because she's never driven before.
Yeah.
And then she's in hospital for a bit because, you know, she had a car crash, and then they put her in a prison instead of a psych ward until she killed someone who smelt like a demon. And then they put her in the psych ward, and they've got her all doped up, and her henchmen have gone away.
Aww,
and she can't see them. She couldn't see them as well when she was in hospital and stuff, I guess, because she was like doped up on painkillers and stuff. And sedatives. So she hasn't seen a henchman in a while, but then she's like, I miss my henchmen. I miss them. So she stopped taking her medication and just made it look like she was taking it. And then she's talking to her therapist, and they're like, they found your henchmen, by the way. And she's like, where are they? Can I see them? And they're like, they're mannequins. Because we also get full-blown descriptions of what her henchmen look like. One of them has like razor hands. Like he's like Edward Scissorhands and shit. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, like we get like they are like demonic monster looking things. One of them doesn't have a face.
Okay.
And stuff like that. And they're mannequins. We found your DNA all over them. She's been fucking mannequins for 5 years.
Okay. Good for her. But that's silly.
Yeah. But now she doesn't even have the mannequin. So in hunting, right, she's literally just fucking thin air.
Yeah, I figured
maybe
that.
Sex toys. Because they also found sex toys with the mannequins.
Yeah.
But they have like full-blown orgies and stuff like that.
So interesting. How many henchmen are there?
I think there's like 4 or 5.
That's interesting.
But I will say as well, like, look, and I feel sick even just thinking about this, right? Like, descriptions of semen in romance books, and especially these ones, fucking makes me feel so sick. Like, there's this one scene from Satan's Affair that just, like, one of them blew his load so hard that she felt her stomach was full to bursting, and I'm like, ooh.
I've gotten so desensitized to descriptions of semen. Like, I'm just
I can't.
Here's the thing: if you had asked me a year ago, I would have like some ick words, and I still do, but the list is so much shorter now. Like, because once you actually like read a lot of sex scenes, and like, you know, and once you actually start to get very used to the spectrum of explicitity,
I know.
you know,
I
from
don't so
like
much
from I
the
guess
stomach
like
being full to bursting though.
you don't, yeah, I mean, but like
That's
once
a
you get
common
used
one,
to,
honestly.
once you get used to like the spectrum of explicitity from stuff like the Mercy books, where you know it's
flouncy.
very amorphous blob, to like full blown very very explicit erotica, and there's a lot of stuff in between. You know, there's only so many ways to describe stuff, and also there are certain word choices that tell you where on the spectrum we are as far as explicitity goes. So
you know what though? You know, one time I'd like to read a romance novel where she's just like, no, you're not coming in my mouth. It's fucking gross.
I know, right?
I've read a number of them where they're like, no, thank you.
I haven't, but I need to, I feel like, because that I'm not gonna lie. I know I don't really go into much detail about my sex life in a public manner, but I'm gonna say this. No. I feel sick for days after. Like just the
That's fair. Yeah.
No, that's fair.
Like no. So that like so it makes like anything about like no, I feel like I said I feel fucking. But also another word that when you are describing a tongue action as lashing, he's lashing it. His tongue lashed against my clit.
That's pretty normal.
Lashed against my tongue. I'm not okay with that either because it sounds like a fucking snake striking.
Pretty and that is normal. I'm sorry.
It's not something I want to picture coming towards a clitoris. It's a snake striking at it.
I see. I don't think lashing for me is associated with like because I've watched Outlander too many times. It is associated with like yeah.
Oh, see, I don't associate it with that.
I'm okay with that because it's a weapon. It's fine. But
yeah, so that's why it doesn't bother me.
I don't want to hear about a tongue lashing. I'm not okay with it. I don't know why.
One of the only ick words. Yeah, one of the only ick words I still have is yeah. Zade says that a lot.
I don't really like that word.
Okay. Creamy is fine for cheese.
Honey is another one. I don't like that one.
Like describing
fluids.
Yeah, that's
you know what? Look,
I
do question like why does so much detail have to be like put into describing fluids? Because I'm gonna tell you something. And I'm sure at least I hope you'll.
I just
agree.
sent it in the side chat like of one I recently read.
Oh yeah. See.
Yeah, no, but like when
much. That doesn't act.
When
like,
I don't like that. I don't like that.
Like question. Just how much actual conscious thought do you put into
fluids?
The fluids.
Well, like I said, fluids are going to get described. Okay, so like for example, all right, let me explain. So for example, all right, so here's let me share those. There's a couple things to keep in mind when it comes to romance. This is romance novels, so capital R romance, not dual genre romance. Okay.
This is your fluffy romance erotica novels.
Yeah, this is capital R romance. Okay.
Yeah.
So we have
yes.
we have light and dark, and then normal boinking and mom come pick me up, I'm scared. Okay. Just throwing this out there. So we have Sarah J. Maas in like light and normal boinking. Yeah. Okay.
I love her books. A Court of Silver Flames is incredible. It is smutty. It is wonderful, but it's pretty standard boinking.
Like, I would say like it's a little bit more to the dark because she like discusses depression, but
like overall, I mean, but
all
overall,
of
like, ACOTAR is it's the romance is like half the plot. You have this whole other half of the plot happening at the same time. So yeah, it definitely is in light.
It's light. Colleen Hoover is just domestic violence porn.
It
And
really
also
is.
it's all missionary.
Yeah. I've
Okay,
read
so-
4 Colleen Hoover books. I think I can attest. 'Cause
like
I don't think either
Neri-
of you have read any Colleen Hoover.
No.
But no,
And I have,
yeah, I've read some stuff like it though, in like nary even a doggy style to be found. So
Yeah, right,
like,
right.
is how vanilla.
No
we are,
cowgirl.
Okay?
Well, there's
No,
cowgirl.
yeah, not even
Colleen, there's cowgirl, but
yeah, not even like I said, nary even like a doggy style. Okay, so like,
it's just depressing smut.
right, yeah, it's just sad smut. Everybody's crying in the club while doing missionary.
Yes, yes. That's Colleen Hoover.
That's Colleen
Which we
Hoover.
should totally. I need to vet more of her books to figure out one because a lot of them they're just, they're really heavy. They're really heavy.
And then
They're good.
in this quadrant where we have light and Mom Come Pick Me Up, I'm Scared. There's a book by Katie Roberts called Your Dad Will Do, which
I read that yesterday.
I
and
recommended
the night
it
before.
to you, and I was
Holy
like,
crap! I was
you
cackling.
were sending me texts that were basically like, Mom Come Pick. You were like,
Yes.
TJ, come pick me up. I'm scared.
I'm scared. And I was reading it on the way to Greenville yesterday.
That's so
I was finishing it in the car with Christian.
That's so funny.
And I just started cackling when Max walked in.
Oh my God, yeah.
I mean, I was cackling and Christian's like, what? And I was like, I can't talk about this with you. I'll tell you about Haunting Adeline all day, every day. But it was totally normal.
And this is where like and
yes,
this is where this
it's
this
so
is where
funny.
the smut is like,
there's no
you
plot.
know,
It's just smut.
But it's not just that it's just smut, okay? Because a just smut book can be still like very vanilla. Okay,
I mean, the title of this one is Your Dad Will Do.
So
okay?
yeah, you fill in the blank.
You know what's happening here.
There are no blanks to be filled in. Okay, you know what's going on. But like the stuff that's going on is like the trigger warnings are not like dubcon. They're like
it's specific kinks typically.
Yeah. So then over on like the dark.
Sorry, the blurb is making me laugh. Okay. After this weekend, my ex won't be the only one who calls his father daddy.
Yes. And like one of the last lines of the book is like, do you think he'll call me mom? When I tell you, I was almost crying laughing. It was so good. It was I rated that book. I rated that book 4 stars because I had so much fun.
I had fun too. So and then
anyways,
over here you have Haunting Adeline, because Haunting Adeline, despite even like the gunplay and stuff, is very
which
like,
we haven't
that's dark. We'll get there. All that's really dark. But like on like the, is it like super kinky? It's a little less than like Your Dad Will Do. Hunting would be lower. Because we have
Hunting
knife.
is like the bottom right corner.
Hunting is definitely in line with like Jade West.
I feel like though, I'm not gonna lie, I feel like it should be over a little bit more because of just the number of like children being videotaped getting murdered and drained for blood.
That's true. That's also
I think it should be further over.
That's also true.
That's fair. Yeah, it shouldn't be as far over as Colleen Hoover. I made this in haste, but like you get it.
Yes,
that's okay. Yes.
It was late on Thursday night or Friday night.
It was late. But I'll refine this if we read more of like these.
Oh, and we'll add more examples. It'll be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't read Jade West yet, but I've read blurbs.
And I feel like
accurate.
Jade West. So I've read most of her books. Jade West is like. Some of it, honestly, people have argued that some of it is just for shock value, and I won't say that's incorrect. That some of her stuff can just be like dark for the shock value of it being dark. Or like, yeah, but in any case, that's that. And then when it comes to explicitity, because that is just like the actual content. when it comes to like explicitity of like the actual boinking and stuff, right? You have like books like Mercy Thompson where
It's
you know
just
that they're
fluffed out.
boinking, but sometimes as you're reading it, you're like, what the fuck are they doing? You know,
Yeah,
you're like,
Amorphous blobs.
you're like, is she going down? Like, I don't even know what's happening.
I do remember in the book where the rape-a-doodle happens. Like, you didn't even. I had to tell you when we were talking about it that she was giving him Rodad because it was just like that obscure.
Yeah. Yeah, like there are times where like you just don't even know what's going on.
And because
And-
nudge doesn't always help as well, because they say nudge when they're just standing in the kitchen. So,
Yeah.
like, yeah.
I
I kind of wish nudge.
would like
didn't
nudge to
stick
go
around.
away. But
Yeah.
But then like, you know, then you get into like less amorphous blob and like it's still very non-descriptive, but like you can you know what's happening.
I know neither of you read
That
Throne
would
of
be like
Glass, but the beginning of the Throne of Glass series, that's how that is.
And then like
in terms of what we have read, I would probably say Shifters. Shifters isn't overly graphic, but she explicitly tells you the P is in the V.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and then like when it comes to like, you know, what I would actually consider smut, you get to where
that's when you can open a book and search the word cock and
I
find
know,
where the sex
actually,
is. Oh,
no,
really?
because there is actual smut where you're never going to see the word
cock,
or
Blackwood.
you're never going to see a word like the P word, which is weird to say.
It'll be length.
It would be something like length, hardness, center, core, stuff like that.
That's
and you're never actually gonna see
how we
like
do
this
sex
length.
scenes in Blackwoods.
Oh, speaking.
No, we don't do that. We don't get that explicit.
That's what I'm saying. We
Yeah.
do get that
I wish,
explicit later.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. And
I
stuff that's
will
out.
say, I wish that there was better words for girls, because I've yet to hear one that doesn't, like, in this one, slit gets used a lot.
I don't like that one that much.
Well, and then beyond that,
if my husband ever refers to it as my slit, I'm gonna.
well, and then beyond that, you start to.
guilt.
Well, then beyond that, you actually start to get like explicit words for parts, like, you know, like what you all just said. But then beyond that is when you actually get to where you get graphic descriptions of genitals.
Which I feel like that's too much. When we're describing what they look like, I feel like that's a bit much. Oh, she doesn't quite go into.
Welcome.
Like, I have seen.
Yes.
Like with that one, like not so much. All right, like, and again, oh yeah, just like again. Like, I mean, I couldn't tell you how many times I've had sex. Okay, it's been a lot, but I don't think I've ever just like looked at a dick and gone and described it in detail in my head.
Yeah, no, never.
I'm like, that's a penis.
You typically get that kind of stuff with like monster romance because they're
You kind of need it.
Monster or alien, and monster and alien are not the same thing, because like there's humanoid alien, and usually it's just something like, and I mean this, and I'm not just making this up. Usually it's something like it's ribbed.
Yeah.
I will say, actually, there is one time I have thought about what it looks like, but it's been post-coitus, and this isn't like going into detail about my husband, because I'm pretty sure like all men have this. When if you're looking at it from the top, like so from like the head down, like you're looking at it from the above angle.
Okay.
It looks like a Darth Vader helmet from the back.
Okay. Yeah.
But I feel like that wouldn't go over well.
No, I wouldn't put that in a romance novel. Anyways,
Actually, while I'm thinking,
Daya.
while I'm thinking of Melissa's, because I saw this on TikTok, and then I called my husband to verify, and he confirmed you can twist it when it's flaccid, like it twists it, like 360 degrees.
Yeah,
he did it. What he did it 720 degrees.
Yeah,
that is I did not know that.
Yeah, I did,
and I wish I didn't.
Yeah,
but okay.
They're very mobile.
Daya, so there's Daya.
Daya is the best friend.
Oh, also,
I love her.
I'm pissed. I'm pissed though. I'm pissed regarding Daya.
Why?
Well, like with how the book ended, and he just turns and it's like a chick there, and he's like, "You," and she's like, "Yes, me." And then we don't find out who it is. And then in the next book, it takes a few chapters before we find out who it is. I was so hoping it was her, but no, she's just a friend, and I'm pissed. That would have worked better. I feel like that would have been a bigger plot twist than the battered wife.
So, what we wanted from the second book was that Daya gets stalked. That's what
I was like, I'm still waiting for stalking Daya.
But
is Jay doing the stalking? Because I feel like
that's what I wanted.
I want that. I'm still holding out hope.
But maybe one day.
Oh, what if? I feel like though in that scenario, Daya would be the stalker, so it'd be stalking Jay.
That'd be so fun.
I'm okay with that.
That'd be so fun. Anyways, but Daya is the best friend. She works for Zade. Does not know that she works for Zade specifically, but she does work for the organization that he runs. Zade. She is amazing and wonderful, and I stand her. Anyway, I have my iPad because I have probably 100 highlights from this book.
And that's we're an hour and 10 minutes in, and we haven't even gone to plot yet.
Yep. But you have told us about one whole book, so there you go. So the quote for this book, which I think is just fun, is "Cat got your tongue, little mouse." Ha ha ha. This is the cat and mouse duet. Also, something cool that this book did that a lot of romance novels are doing now is it has a playlist, which I have not listened to the playlist, but The Weeknd is on it, and he is one of my favorite artists, and he makes sexy music. So
yeah, I think Twilight was the first book I read that had the playlist.
Had a playlist. Yeah, and now it's very common now.
The other thing that I really like that romance novels are doing these days is and I know that we went over the trigger warnings very early in the stream, but a lot of romance novels are doing it. And
I love it.
Lots of trigger warnings that have spoilers. Like sometimes they'll be like, here are the trigger warnings, and they come in this specific chapter. And I love that. It's so useful because sometimes you're like, okay, this is a trigger warning, but like how much of it's in the book? And they'll just be like, it's in this chapter, it's only in this chapter, or something like that. And it's
like 2 paragraphs. You can just skip them.
Yeah, and like I don't care
that
like it spoils something, because here's the thing: if you tell me specifically and you can tell me what to expect, especially if it's something that might actually be triggering to me, but I know what to expect and I know maybe where I can just kind of skip that part, or whatever, I'm much more likely to actually read your book, because here's the thing: it's a romance novel. We all know how it's going to end. And I'm here for the journey.
And the thing is, as well, is trigger warnings, they're labeled as such, and therefore, if you don't want them, you can just skip them.
Yeah.
Just like you can skip the paragraphs where the trigger warnings occur, you can skip the trigger warning if you don't want the spoilers.
Oh, also, for anybody that wants it, there's actually a website. Anybody who's a writer and anybody who's a reader, there's a website called Trigger Warning Database.
Oh.
And it's a database of books, and it will list trigger warnings for you, and you can contribute it. You can add trigger warnings for your books, and it has trigger warnings for books that don't have trigger warnings like listed in the front. Like actually, it has trigger warnings for all of the Mercy books.
What's it called? I was gonna say, like, does it?
It's just called Trigger Warning Database.
It's very good.
It's very useful. Cool. So also, if you ever have the mental energy to contribute,
there's one book that I know I need to contribute for, because it's that one that I rated 5 stars and then you put on your TBR and I was like, don't read it. And it doesn't include those trigger warnings on there.
Okay.
And I'm like, it needs those.
So I just linked it in the in the comments. But you can search by triggers. You can search by title and author. You can contribute. If you have a book, so if you're a writer, you can let them know what your triggers are. If you read a book and you disagree with their listed trigger warnings,
Sorry, I was just curious to see if anything was like in there for the Vampire Academy books, like specifically Blood Promise.
Mm-hmm.
Frostbite. Trigger and content warning. Blood depiction and blood drinking in the vampire book. I understand. Okay, I feel like the blood depiction trigger warning is fair play in, for example, hunting, Adeline, because you don't necessarily expect. But it's a vampire book.
Here's the thing. I think thoroughness is better than not.
Yeah, I know, right. But it's a vampire book.
Yeah, that's fair.
Of course there's blood drinking.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, hang on. I wonder, okay, I'm going to get into I'm going to start the plot in a second. I swear. Okay. But I have to look up House of Night.
Oh god. Yes. There's probably going to be a slut-shaming trigger warning in at least one of them.
There should be.
It is not on this website. Guys, I know what we have to do.
We have to, for example, in...
Contribute to our data. I'm gonna...
I think I need to work out which book it is, right? Because this one is specifically an FU to PC cast, right? Well, PC and Kristen cast, because in one of the first two books, Stevie Ray's throwing out R words like they're candy. But then 5 books later, she's yelling at Aphrodite for saying it. And I feel like that's fine, if you want to make a point, but don't have the same character do both. So I want to put a trigger warning for that. How are they not on there?
Because they're so old, probably.
Yeah, but anyways. Vampire Academy's on there. Oh, that said, that people still read Vampire Academy.
Well, I mean, it's like I said, it's a community contributed site, and there's also it's also contributed to by authors and a couple publishing houses. And
again, people still read Vampire Academy. That I don't think many people still read House of Night, so no one's probably.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it later.
Oh, right. Morganville's on there. Alcohol consumption. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So the prologue sets up everything for us.
Yes.
The prologue, it starts with a random, non-explicit in the timeline.
I found it marked, by the way.
Oh,
it's already on there. Ableism and ableist language. Excellent.
That's what that's one of them. There it is. Incestuous child sexual abuse.
I was like, who the fucking marked? But Neferret makes a passing comment to it.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's also tagged with grooming, which makes sense because of. But that's in the next.
I just saw as well the Mortal Insurance books are on there as well, and I'm like, yeah, there's going to be a bunch of incest tags on those.
Yeah. Okay. So nondescript in the timeline, we have a scene where just kind of describing what happened. Addie's inherited this house. There's a man standing outside. And she finds a thrill in the man watching her.
Yeah. So we don't actually know when that takes place, because that happens at some point throughout the course of the book.
Yeah. So chapter 1, we begin with her moving into the house, and her mom is like, "Don't do it," and she's like, "Fuck off." So then we get more about Parsons Manor, which is a house.
I want to say this too. She's got I don't know if she has a case. Some people said in reviews that she's got a case of dumb bitchitis, and I don't know if I really agree with that or not.
I don't think so. I don't think she has double
I
vaginas.
don't remember because like I'm pretty sensitive to that sort of thing. I don't really remember feeling like she was a too stupid to live character.
Yeah. Oh, she writes thrillers.
Ah,
That's
well,
what
this makes sense.
so she writes, yeah, that's why she writes thrillers, because it's the only thing that makes her excited. So we have a book signing. She goes to a book signing. She sees a guy with heterochromia, and she thinks that he's he's good looking.
Oh,
Zade.
also, can we also just take a moment to appreciate the fact that they okay, yes, she made Zade tall and all the stuff. However, he's also scarred to all fuck. Like he's got scars all over his face.
He has a scar going through his. So he has a black iris eye and a white iris eye, and he has a scar going through the white one.
Which also made me think that like he was blind in that eye.
But he's never mentioned being blind in the eye though. So
yeah, because sometimes. So
I'm just assuming heterochromia.
Yeah, but like sometimes if you have damage to an eye, it can.
Yeah.
So that's why I actually didn't think it was heterochromia. I thought it was that
I think he says later that it's heterochromia. He says in hunting. I think he says it.
Yeah, I was wondering back and forth like throughout the book because the scar going through the eye. I was like, but it's always described as that eye being fully functional. So
yeah. That was just how I took it initially.
Yeah. So we meet Daya. We're drinking with Daya after the book signing, and Daya's like, you need to get laid. So she takes Addie's phone and she texts a guy named Grayson. And the next thing we have... Poor Grayson. The next thing we have is a scene where Grayson is at Parsons Manor, and Addie is really not enjoying herself, but she's like, I'm horny, whatever. She's really not enjoying herself. And then there's a bang, 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 bang on the front door. She goes outside. No one's there.
I remember this scene stressing me out so much. Like when we were first reading it, we were sitting there on your couch, and I'm just like, "Oh God, what's gonna happen?" Because I genuinely thought, like, you know, those scenes in like slasher flicks where some characters just like standing there, and then all of a sudden they just get like yoinked into the darkness or something. I thought that was what was gonna happen.
Well, I mean, that happens to Archie. So, but
yeah. But I was just like, I'm just like waiting. Honestly, I thought that he was gonna be completely like full ass like inside her, and he was just gonna be like yeeted.
You know what though? I was Team Addie in this scene because like because Grayson's just like, who's at the door? Why didn't you go check? And she's like.
And she was like, "Are you a man or not?"
She's like, "Aren't you supposed to be like, you stay here?" And then when Archie did, I was like, "Yes." And then they're like, "Oh no, he's a massive DV." Or I'm like, "Can he just not be?" My headcanon is that he's not. Okay.
So after that, she decides she's not want to have sex, and I have the first quote of the book to read out. She's describing his eyes, and he's like, and she says. Not to him, but in her head. They're a shitty color, just like a shitty personality and even shittier stroke game. This dude gives fish a run for their money the way he flops when he boinks. Doesn't say boinks, but it feels more casual. Might as well lay out naked in the fish market. He'd have a better chance of finding someone to take him home. So she is a savage, and I love her.
Yeah.
And so he leaves, but he punches a hole in the wall, and
he's cussing her out as he's leaving.
Yes, and we have the first letter that is her great grandmother. Her great grandmother wrote like a diary essentially about this man standing outside her window, but she's very attracted to him. The next chapter is Zade. He is tortured.
Oh, pause real quick. Something that I actually liked about the Grayson scene, and I've read it, and I read another book by H.D. Carlton.
Oh, you have? Which one?
What was it called? I'll look in a second.
Was it the one that we were thinking of reading, and then we were like, no, let's not read that one together?
I don't know. I'll look in a sec. But
was it Shallow River?
Yes, the Shallow River.
Was it good?
It was good.
Okay,
it was fucked up, but it was good.
Well, I mean, it's H.D. Carlton, so
it was like I would give it like 3.5 to 4. I did enjoy it. But real quick. One thing that I like a lot about her writing is that, you know, something that a lot of authors can get kind of wrong is like over the top and like abusive characters. They can come off feeling cartoony, which is why I don't find some of those things triggering, like sexually predatory characters, especially. I a lot of times don't find triggering because a lot of times when it's done, I'm just like, no, that's I don't believe you. So I'm like, whatever. But she does a good job because even though it's like over the top, I guess it's over the top in the way that those people are over the top in real life. And she just does a good job with it.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, like people like Grayson exist, and he was pissing me the fuck off.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know when this, because Goodreads doesn't tell you when.
Oh, yeah, about how Sibby's getting her own duet.
Yeah, Sibby's getting a duet that she'll start writing it this year, but I don't know if that was written like last year or this year, or I don't know when.
Yeah, because Goodreads doesn't tell you when the questions like were asked.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh wait. I don't know. It got a comment a couple days ago. So I don't know.
So maybe this year is when that happened.
She's saying like, I'll start writing this here.
But yeah, so Sibby's getting a duet at some point, and I'm not gonna lie though, I don't know if I could be in Sibby's head again.
I don't think I would read it. I would watch videos about it because I don't like reverse.
I will say though, like, just it's not too. Look, for a novella, it's still very long, but compared to the books, it's not that long. Just read Satan's Affair, and then you can make an informed choice as to whether or not you would read a Sibby.
Oh wow, it's 200 pages. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's just a novel. It's not a novella.
It's meant to be a novella.
Yeah. So the next thing we have is Zade seeing Addie for the first time, and his thing is...
So we're going back in time to earlier in the evening.
I don't know if God really exists. I don't know if mankind has ever walked on the moon, nor do I know if parallel universes exist. But what I do know is that I just found the meaning of life sitting behind a table with an awkward smile on her face. I love him so much. So he watches her, and then he's like, she's mine now, essentially. So she's mine now. Then we have the next letter, and the next letter is, or not letter, but whatever, the next diary entry. And it is, again, just the stalker is getting closer, and she's like, I like him. Now she is, the next chapter, we are with Addie, and she finds shit in the walls. I don't know. She finds a picture and finds the books. So she starts reading them. And then she figures out someone was in her house. So she goes downstairs and she sees a rose with the thorns clipped off.
Because he's being considerate.
Yes.
He's a considerate stalker.
He is. So she's like freaking out. Otto, stop. So she's like, oh my God, someone was in my house. And then she's talking to Daya and is like, hey, someone broke into my house. And Daya's like, okay, that's not fun. But then Daya comes over. It's the whole thing. Next letter is, again, the stalker has now walked into the house. But that's it. They're cleaning out the house is the next chapter. Again, she goes downstairs and there is a whiskey glass and a rose. And she's like, oh my God, this fucker was in my house again with me just upstairs.
And also she's locking all the doors and the windows, and when she checks, they're all still locked.
They're all still locked. So
I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit disappointed. I was hoping like there was like a secret tunnel entrance that he'd found, like, you know, like out in the woods. There was like a thing with a thing.
Secret tunnel. Yeah, right.
Yeah. It's an old haunted house. Why is there no secret tunnels?
Yeah. So Daya is like, rightfully, you shouldn't be here. There's a man able to break into your house. And she's like, I don't give a fuck. I'm staying in my house. She's like, he's not running me out of my house. The next letter is, great grandma Gigi is like, I want to make out with my stalker. Now the next chapter.
Oh, also, when this is happening, Gigi is married and Nana is 6.
She's like in her early
16.
teens. Yeah. Or mid-teens.
I don't know how long. I actually know she might be younger because they end up having a relationship for a bit. So yeah, early teens. My spawn is calling me.
Okay, I'll hold
I'm
down the
sorry.
fort.
I'm
I'll hold down
sorry.
the fort.
I'm here. I'm here.
Okay, well, I'm gonna keep going through. So she's done a bunch of renovations on the house. So it's been a couple weeks. We have a little bit of a time jump, and yeah, it's been 3 weeks since we last saw her. And she finds a bouquet of roses on her front porch, and she's like, for goodness sake. And there was a card with it this time, and it says, "I'll be seeing you soon, little mouse." And she's like, okay, that's cringy. Why is he calling me little mouse? And that's funny. So her mom shows up, whole thing, whatever. Her mom's like, your Gigi was murdered in this house. And she is like, oh my God, her stalker killed her. But the murder was never solved. So that is her plot for this book, is figuring out who murdered her great grandmother. So that's the whole thing. And then the next letter is he spoke to her. His name is Ronaldo, and she is in love. They kiss, and she is like, he is everything I've ever wanted. The next chapter is Zade, so it's just torture.
Yeah, like
Zade's early chapters are boring. His later chapters are better.
Yeah, his later chapters are better. His early chapters are just like torture, and you're just like, okay.
So now we're on chapter 7. And Daya and Addie are gonna go to the bar. They're gonna go to a club. They meet these guys, and she's like, I'm gonna take one of the guys home. His name's Archie. And then she gets a text from an unknown number saying, "Sneaking off with random men, little mouse. If I catch his hands anywhere near you, they'll end up in your mailbox by morning." Isn't that lovely?
That really stressed me out.
Oh yeah, you were like, holy shit. And I was like, yep,
And then she was like, I'm just gonna take him home. And she was like, I'm gonna take him home. Fuck him. And then I was like, he's gonna do it. And she's like, I have a mailbox. I was like, he's gonna build you a mailbox. He's gonna build you a mailbox, bitch. Shut up.
And
no. When Zade threatens to cut off a guy's hands and put them in her mailbox, she's like, I have a mailbox. I'm like, he will build you a mailbox just for that.
Right.
What's with the cutting off of the hands? Why is it always cutting off?
Because he touched her.
He's a psychopath.
So she gets another text but does not read it. She brings Arch home. They have some. They don't have sex, but they get to like second base. I
did not like Archie's lines.
No, Archie's lines were so cringy. And he diddles. That's what happens. And then bang, 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 bang on the door. So he, the chivalrous man he was, went to the door, and then he is
he's gone out.
Yeah, and then he's gone. So she calls the cops. She walks outside and he's gone, and there is a rose on her doorstep covered in blood. So she calls the cops. But before she calls them, she sees the text that Zade sent her that she had not seen before. And it says, "Don't feel guilty, baby. I don't make idle threats. Consider this a lesson learned." So cops are there. She's like, I've been making stalker reports. Yeah.
I have a quick off-topic question.
Yeah.
Because the kids' school is about to change into winter uniform, and that requires my son to wear a tie. And I refuse to buy like one of the pre-tied ties that has like the elastic around the neck because they look ridiculous. Does that look like an okay?
I think so.
It's a bit dark, but
yeah, I think so.
Did I tie excellent? Because I've been I need something like with a neck to practice.
Yeah, so you have Yoshi, and you're tying a tie onto Yoshi.
Yeah, excellent.
Yes, it does look good.
Excellent.
So she's like, I've been making stalker like reports with the police. Have you not? Like, what the fuck? And then he's like, oh, the cop's like, oh, we don't have any reports of a stalker. So she's like, what the hell? And she finds out that Archie belongs to a crime family, and now she's stressed that they might come after her because, you know,
She knew she had a
disappeared.
stalker, and
Yeah, and then he disappeared on her property.
yeah. Look, I don't know much about crime families, you know, but I can see them questioning her, being like, "Do you know what happened?"
Yeah.
I
Which that
don't see
doesn't-
them killing her and her family because
I don't either. But
like,
you know.
this whole conflict issue, like potential,
Yeah.
just it seemed a little bit far-fetched for me, this bit, when both her and Zade are like, oh no, the whole family's going to kill her because
So the next chapter is Zade killing Archie, torturing and killing Archie.
and chopping off his hands.
It is now the next chapter is her and Dia being like, oh my gosh, I got this guy killed. And Dia's like, I mean, he was a bad guy. So yeah. And then you got the US Postal Service truck shows up and she gets like a shipment of books, but then there's another box there. And she goes, oh, fuckity fuck. God, please don't allow this to happen to me on this fine Sunday morning. This poor woman. And there are severed hands in the box. And she calls Dia and she's like, a hand, another hand, two of them in a box on my porch. And I love her dialogue with Dia because it's so real. God,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's one thing, is like her inner voice, like just the way that she speaks in her head, plus also her
it's so very real.
I'm not going to talk about his dialogue because that's not, but a lot of the dialogue in this series in general is actual conversations that would actually occur.
Yes. So Dia comes over and is like, I will dispose of them. But there's a note in the box with the hands and it says, while I will enjoy punishing you for every time you call the police, let's hold off this time. So she can't call the cops and she's like, I don't think they're going to do anything anyways, because obviously he's erasing the police reports or whatever. And then we find out that Arch's entire family is dead. Zade killed them. He decided that, you know, maybe they would go after her. So he just murders everyone. And she's like, so I got a whole family killed.
Now, my question is, right, because like very rarely does it, like what is the extension of the family that he...
I think it's the parents and siblings is who he killed.
I hope there were no nieces and nephews.
Let me see. Entire family, his father, 2 brothers, an uncle, and 2 cousins.
Okay.
No witnesses, no evidence, nothing. It was smooth as hell, as Dia says. So yeah.
He forgot about the best friend though.
Yeah. So she goes upstairs, her door is open. She's like, oh my God, the diaries are on the floor, which means he read them. And the last thing, the line she finds is, he came for me, because remember, Gigi was murdered. So that's when she decides, I'm going to solve Gigi's murder. So her and Dia talk about that. Someone, and then he's outside her room, and then she sees him for the first time, and we get the lovely description of him. He is lean but packed with muscle and tall, very tall. Blah 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 blah. And then she's like, does he like want to hurt me, or does he want to like be my boyfriend? And
both. The answer is yes.
The answer is yes. Again, we have more letters, but just know that it's just her relationship with Ronaldo, Gigi's relationship with Ronaldo progressing.
And her relationship with her husband gradually
falling apart.
Worse, and
yes.
Yeah.
So he's back. It's been 2 nights since that first time. He's back. She's also installed security cameras in her house, and he has gotten he doesn't show up on the cameras, which is showing that he knows how to. Yeah.
Oh, also, sorry, just while I'm thinking of it as well. One thing that I actually did. Look, I know that like her mom's meant to be like some sort of like very just personal minor antagonist in this book, right? I'm not gonna lie though, like I was low key like pissed off at her, like with her like regarding her mother's opinions of her grandmother, like in the first chapter.
Oh,
and I'll tell you why. Because she's like, oh, Mom always hated Nana, and how absolutely dare she? Because Nana was fucking awesome, rah rah rah. Like, and I'm just like, it seems to have just never occurred to her that like people can have different relationships with their children and their grandchildren. Like, for example, my father-in-law, shitty dad, absolute shitty dad, worst dad ever. Awesome grandfather.
Yeah.
I mean, we limit it, so he doesn't get a chance to be a shitty grandfather. But so far, 7 years in, awesome grandfather. Like, and like my children are going to be quite confused when they learn the truth about their poppy when they're adults. But very different relationship between
like
my father-in-law and my husband, and my father-in-law and my children. Very different relationship.
And that's totally possible, yeah. But Mom does not like Grandma. Grandma's obviously dead, by the way. Everyone's
and it turns out for actual good reason. So like my annoyance was justified.
So we okay, so he's back. So she goes outside and she's like, hey, can you like go away? And she like shoves him like she's up in his face, like, can you like leave, dude? I'm really stressed out and I need you to leave.
I'm
and
busy.
he's just like, he just laughs and like smiles at her, and then he leaves.
I also did appreciate as well her referring to the lit butt, like the lit end of the cigarette, as the cherry.
Yeah.
Because that is something that it does get referred to as. And she's either a smoker or has been around smokers.
Yes. He smokes. We see him again. It's the whole thing. But she has never seen his face yet. She's not seen his face.
Yes, because he wears a dark hoodie all the time.
Yes. There's another book signing. She's tipsy, and the entire living room is covered in red roses when she comes home. So Daya's like, okay, you're gonna stay at my place tonight. So she's like, yeah, okay, whatever. So she goes and stays with Daya and gets a text from Zade saying, you didn't like my flowers? He's so funny.
And honestly, again, like it's a really weird fucking conflicting. This is a real mindfuck to read.
It is.
Because in reality, it's like, no, we're getting the police, we're getting restraining orders, we're getting all sorts of shit happening. Whereas, like, reading it, you're like, yes.
You're like, yes, stalk her more, Zade.
Yeah, I know, right?
Do more. The next chapter 12, is just Zade in her house thinking about his job. He is like, there's this one specific ring that he's infiltrating right now. It's not important. It's a child sex, like ritualistic, sacrificial ring, whatever.
It's not important. Isn't that like the end? That's like his entire plot, this book.
Yeah, it is. Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. Well, we do need to kind of reference it a bit because, like,
yes, because of Mark
and the ending of the book.
Yeah, it was fine.
So just the clip notes of it is they take like 5-year-olds and then they put them on an altar and stab them and drain them of their blood and then drink their blood, and now they're initiated and someone's leaking videos of these happening.
And so Zade's pondering that. So Next chapter, chapter 13. We are about to get to the chapter. The chapter that makes either people DNF or never be
Feel
able
like
to stop.
fuck, we have to keep reading.
Yep. Uh-huh.
I knew it
And
was coming, and it still was like,
so
this isn't okay.
she sees the ghost of her grandmother or great grandmother of Gigi, goes into the attic, finds a letter, and her great grandfather's handwriting that says, "I did what I was told to do because if I didn't, I'd be next. This is my confession. I helped him cover up her murder." And she's like, "What is this?" And she's like, "Gigi, come on. Why do you want to show me this?" So then he's outside again. So then she's like acting like she's calling the police, and she gets a text from him, and they text back and forth. They have good banter of him being like, "You're not calling the cops, you silly bitch." So she does call the cops, and then he let's see. Oh, the cops show up. Oh yeah, the more you disobey me, the harder your punishment. Whatever. So hang on. Yeah, her and Daya.
Unhealthy.
She tells Daya about the text finally, and Daya's like, bruh. Then chapter 14. Oh, this is so good. This is about to get really stressful.
Your face is getting redder the further you get into this.
Well, also it doesn't help that I have such crappy lighting because I have a window right here. So
You know
all
what you
can
need
see,
to do? You just need to get it like a little ring light.
I have a ring light.
Oh, well,
Look.
Okay, well, I'll send you a picture of what I have. I've got 2 of these, one on either side of my computer.
I also have 2 white things on both my monitors.
I'm
2 white
sending it to
screens.
you.
So she gets a text from him. Again, they text. And he's like, "I can smell you. It's really gross." And he's like, "Come find me." So
they're just like
squares. I
squares.
see. Yes.
And they're at their lowest thing. If I turn them all the way up, like, wait, give me. So I'm not flashing my boobs. I'm just going to turn my camera for a second.
Yeah, I'm going to turn on my overhead light, see if that helps.
Well, that's bright. Okay. Oh, actually, it's not as, like, it's really bright now. Wait.
That does not help. It just shows the redness in my skin even more.
But now I'm mislighted, so let me. Whoop. There we go.
Oh, it's better. I don't know.
Yay!
So okay. So she goes and looks for him. And this section is so stressful because she is just searching for him in her house. So she's like opening every door. It's a very, very long
Victorian mansion.
Yeah. And it's a very long passage of her looking for him. And she finds him on her bedroom balcony. And she's like, "Let me see your face." So she's like, "Oh my God." Oh, now it's gone again. See, damn it. So she's like, "Holy crap, he's hot as hell." Which, and then there's sexual tension. It's fine. And he's like, "Okay, I'll give you a deal. If you can hide and I can't find you in 5 minutes, I'll leave forever. I'll leave. But if you don't, I get to do things to you." And she's like, "Bet." So she goes and hides, and obviously he finds her. And he takes her. She has this like
in her defense, I'm 99% sure he cheated because he can view all of her cameras throughout the entire house.
Yeah, probably. I am so irritated with this stupid.
Which I feel like secret passageways would have been helpful. Okay,
Yeah.
if you're going to build an old Victorian manor, like you have your secret passageways and your dumbbell waivers.
So I need like This doesn't help either. I'm just gonna be creepy. It's fine.
It's fine.
So
This feels like the appropriate chapter for you to be creepy. So
sit back here. So he finds her and he takes her to this like there's this really pretty room that's like completely windows in her house.
Oh yeah,
so
and that's the room that she was with Archie in.
Oh, that's worse.
The room. He's reclaiming the room. He even says it. He's like, you wanted to defy our love in this room. Well, I'm taking our love back in this room.
Yes. Yep. Mm-hmm.
She's like, what love? I never met you before just now.
Like, what do you mean you're in love with me? So she tries to run away, and then doesn't work, and she's like, her body is conflicting with her mind because she's like, I want him to be near me. So she tries to run, and then he flips her over his shoulder, and she's like, I am not a potato, because he like a bag of potatoes. And then chapter 16.
Yep.
Chapter 16 is the infamous book, the infamous chapter that involves the gunplay.
And I need to. Okay. So in this book, in this chapter, in this scene, a presumably loaded gun goes.
I assume it's not.
I'm presuming it is because he's not walking around with an unloaded gun.
No, but if he's gonna put it,
I assume it's not too, honestly.
I don't
it's
know.
more fun if it's not.
However, in the next book, he then gets the shits with her because he's like, you never let your gun be pointed. You never make my gun be pointed at you, or I'm going to shove it up your ass. And he will. I'm like, okay, so you can shove it up her hoo-ha, you can shove it up her ass, but heaven forbid it gets pointed in her general direction.
Yeah, right.
That's why I think it wasn't loaded.
Yeah. That's why I think it wasn't loaded either.
But what's the number one rule of gun safety? Number one rule. You always treat it like it's loaded.
Well, I mean, I think he would like break the rules of gun safety, but I genuinely don't think it was loaded.
Yeah, I don't think we also don't know what kind of gun it is, which bothers the crap out of me.
Yes, because I'm not gonna lie, right? Like when I'm picturing a gun that would be able to, like, but it would be long enough to like.
Yeah.
Here's the thing about a real gun.
They all have like the little sight on them.
Yeah, they all have that little sight at the tip.
And I'm like,
any gun would feel awful.
Right.
It would feel terrible.
It's definitely a handgun. We know, like.
He's not. It's not.
He's not
like,
banging it with a rifle.
Yeah, no. Could you imagine? Oh my god.
I mean, I imagine it's probably just like a Glock or something. Mm-hmm. Like,
that's how I imagine it.
But they all had the little thing too. Like, there was.
I know.
Did he store it off in advance? Like what?
Like right, because I feel like that would cause a mess. Does that fix it? I don't know. I don't like this. Look at my face. I'm so dark.
Can you turn the brightness on your light?
That's what. My ring light is as bright as it goes. I'm gonna mess with my camera settings for a second.
Okay.
But
yeah, no.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's fine.
I'm sending you guys something.
Okay. Well, while that is sending, because I mean, I'll have to open up the chapter, I guess, but from memory, like it gets pretty far up there, so it has to be long, right?
Do you like them?
No, I do. I like those a lot.
You do? Yay! Oh my gosh.
Oh, much better.
That one. I just heart reacted the one that is
that's
my favorite.
That was the one that I was thus enlarging.
I like them a lot. Oh. Oh, those are really good. Anyways.
I like the way you two are looking at each other in that third one.
Okay. To adjust my camera settings, I have to leave for like 2 seconds. So BRB.
Okay.
No problem.
Yeah, so I'm
Hold down
gonna
the fort, guys.
find that's fine. I'm searching gun. Chapter 16, there we go. So I'm looking like, because does it go like how far in does it go?
Well, it goes.
I
don't know.
okay.
Like, cause here's the thing. Like, this. It wouldn't be pleasant, you know.
Yeah, like I mean, like when he angles the gun in a particular way, he hits a spot inside me that sends my eyes to the back of my head, and an
But it
unchecked one
wouldn't-
slips free. No, it doesn't. It never does.
But here's the thing, like I don't, you know, we know, I don't know. There's not. The only other time I've heard of this happening in real life was like a cam girl did it and she shot herself. So
Yes. Okay, it says it goes in deep, so it's not a Glock because a Glock's not going in deep.
Yeah. We've had full-on conversations about this because the first time I read this, it wasn't like in my head
We
of like
see
what
you.
I know, look at me. I'm bright.
Oh.
I had to turn my brightness way up.
Would I just type in long barreled pistol? Like, is
I
that
guess.
Oh, I'm getting like the ridiculous ones, the ones that like have like
Here's the thing.
like barrels that are like hella long because they're like half a rifle, half a pistol, and they're a revolver.
We could
and they're
spend another
amazing.
hour just on this scene, and we're not going to get anywhere that we're like, oh yeah, now it makes sense. That's not going to happen.
So
There's no
anyway.
point. Just trust me. There's no point.
Yeah.
Okay. So that happens, and for the next 3 nights, he is outside her window, and she is like, "Oh my goodness!" And she's like, "I really liked that. It was definitely not consensual, but she really liked it."
You know what? I like the scenes where she's just screaming at him.
Yeah, where she's
at her
like,
window.
yeah, we're almost there.
Sorry.
So, we're at lunch with Daya. We have not told Daya about what happened. And then one of Arch's friends shows up. His name is Max, and he's like, "So what the heck did you?
What
have to do
happened to
with
my
Arch's-"
buddy?
Yeah, what did you have to do with Arch's disappearance? And I know about the hands, and I know that Daya hid them. So they're like, "Oh,
and
shit."
I will say, Daya's a fucking bro, right? Look, I don't know how I would react if I got a phone call saying 2 hands just rocked up
On my doorstep.
On my doorstep. Can you bury them for me? Look, I don't know how I would react.
Yeah, I don't either.
I don't know.
Yeah,
But that's it. I also have more to consider now because, like, now I'm an accessory to a crime. Of
exactly,
some sort,
exactly.
and I
It's
have
like,
children to think about. So I'm
your
probably
answer
no.
would be, "I love you, but no."
I love you, and so therefore, if I ever get questioned about this conversation, I won't recall it.
Yes,
That's probably. I feel like that might be the extent of my involvement in this. She's a bro.
Yes. So they placate him enough, and does she tell him about the stalker? No, she does not.
I'm always
does not
unclear
tell.
about how much. Oh wait, are you talking Max?
Yeah, she does not tell Max.
Yeah,
about
no,
the
she
stalker.
doesn't. No, because that means that she's definitely going to get killed for some reason.
So she's like, "Listen, I have no idea what happened.
Well, she doesn't. I mean, the logic there is she doesn't tell him about the stalker because she's at the point where Zade has been like don't tell anybody.
Yeah.
Like, because she finds Zade threatening.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know, but before that though, like the cop says to her, and then she's worrying about it, then Zade's worrying about that. If anyone finds out that she had a stalker and then he went missing, they're going to kill her.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I don't know how crime families work. Maybe they do kill people with stalkers because they have stalkers.
That's the thing is I also have no idea how crime families work. But so the next chapter is
I don't really want to ask one either. Like,
No.
I'd rather just not be known.
I'd rather not be associated with crime families. So the next chapter, Zade is hiding in her closet. She's sleeping. It's, he's a stalker. And he's just thinking about her, and he's like, oh, I love her so much. I want to be her husband. It's so sweet. And he's talking about the fact that why is he stalking her? And he's talking about it with himself of like, I'm not going to lie to her and show her like a different side of me. So he's like, I'm going to show her all the fucked up bits and she's going to love me anyways. So
I mean,
he leaves.
Nary a lie was told.
No. So he leaves and he gets a call from Jay, who is his like right-hand man, and is like, hey, Mark's in town. Mark is a part of this bad ring of people. So he's like, okay, I will make friends. And then chapter 18.
Also, isn't Mark like a senator?
He's a senator. Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's fun. So she wakes up to a text from him saying, you're so pretty when you sleep, general stalker things. They text a little bit back and forth. And she's like, I can't stop texting him. I don't know what it is, but I can't stop. But is this when he's outside? No, this is not. There's times where they're texting and he's outside and they're just looking at each other while they're texting, but this is not one of those.
Well, no, but it's very atmospheric when that happens because like she's watching like the phone like light up his face and but it's not lighting him up all the way, and she's just like, that jawline.
Yeah, she's like, the cheekbones. Yeah, they text. It's a whole thing. Then she wakes up in the middle of the night to someone tying her hands up with rope.
Yes.
That's this scene. And he performs cunnilingus, I believe.
Yeah.
Yes, he does.
He performs non-consensual cunnilingus.
That becomes consensual cunnilingus.
Yeah. Again,
and then
dubious consent.
And then they make out. Which is so adorable. But it's a very long scene. I have to just tap for a minute because they're still going. It's been like 15 taps and they're still going.
Mm-hmm.
And then he just leaves.
Yeah, he just like, peace out. That's it.
And then the next chapter is him, and he's like, she's mad at me right now, but she'll come back. It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And then
he's not worried about it.
Then he talks to Jay about the thing.
And Jay, like, throughout this is like, are we?
Like, what are we doing here with this woman? And
yeah.
Zade's like, I'm making her fall in love with me.
And Zade's like, I am gonna stalk her, and she's gonna fall in love with me. And Jay's like, Are you
doing the thing we're fighting against right now?
Yeah, he's like, are we sure that is a good idea? And Zade's like, abso-fucking-lutely. And Jay's like, Jay's like, I don't feel like that's how
relationships work, but
and Zade's like, I don't feel like you know what the fuck you're talking about. And he's like,
okay. So let's see. Okay. 2 days later, he texts her and she's like, hey, did you know a stalker killed my great grandmother? So she tells him kind of like what she knows about it.
And not gonna lie, in a way, she was kind of right.
Yeah, like he did get her killed.
Just not no. Like you could, if you think about it, like the person who did kill her was kind of stalking her.
That's true.
Yeah.
So she's quite alright. Just not the overt stalker.
Yeah. So they're texting back and forth, and he's like, "Fuck it, I'm just calling her." So he calls her, and they talk about it some more. And he's like, "You're gonna fall in love with me, but like, why would I make you fall in love with something fake?" And so he articulates to her his reasoning for stalking her. And he's like, if I approached you in that bookstore, asked you on a date, I'd woo you, charm you, and show you a pretty fake smile and treat you like a queen, all while lying to your face. Is that what you want? And she's like, well, why stalk me? Like, you can still show me who you are without stalking me. And he's like, but I am a stalker. That's who I am. And you're going to love me. And then she's like, did you kill Arch and his family? And he's like, yes. And she's like, what? And he's like, what? Do you think I'm gonna lie? Like, we just went over this.
Yeah, look, I mean, you got to give him credit where credit's due, I guess, where he's just like, look, I could have pretended to be like, I could have taken
a good
you
guy,
out for flowers.
Yeah,
could have taken you out to dinner, and you would have said,
well,
yes.
he gives her flowers
all the time.
He always gives her flowers.
Just in a Jeffrey Dahmer way.
He started off giving her flowers. Granted, the second one was like covered in blood.
And the first one was inside her locked home while she was upstairs sleeping or something.
It wasn't locked. He unlocked it.
And then locked it again when he left.
And then locked it again when he left. He's polite.
He actually has an internal dialogue line about that,
like
where
he
he's
says,
like, I'm the only one. Yeah, he's like, I'm the only one that can break in.
For other creeps.
Yeah. He's like, I can break into her house.
Of
but
course,
no one else.
I reverse pick the lock.
Touch her and die. It's the touch her and die trope.
Yeah.
So she also tells him, hey.
Oh, side note about tropes. Katie Roberts, her website.
Oh my God, that was so fun.
It's so funny. Like her website, when she's like listing out like what the tropes are. She's so funny about it.
I wonder what the tropes are for your dad will do. Let's see.
So we're talking
gargoyles. Oh my God. What?
We're talking about Haunting Adeline. Haunting Adeline is a book wherein which
oh man, you've missed 2 hours of explanation.
Where in which a man stalks a woman.
And she falls in love with him.
And we fell in love with him.
Katie Robert is the one that did The Dragon's Bride. I haven't read it, but I see it everywhere.
And where in which we fell in love with him as well. And now we are here.
Ta-da!
Ta-da! Yeah. And we were just discussing how he does in fact buy her flowers. Granted, one of them was covered in the blood of
a guy that
man
he killed.
She had just been like making out with. But sometimes it do be like that though.
It do be like that.
Yeah.
She has so many interesting books.
Right?
Anyway, I need to stop.
Anyway, yeah,
I need to stop. I need to stop looking at her website. I'll look at it later. But she tells him that Max is like making threats. Yeah. ... K. Exactly.
Yeah.
So he kidnaps Max's dad off screen and then goes to the club where he's at and is like, hi, you touch her or you touch Daya and I will kill you and I will kill your father. And he's like, okay, got it. So that's taken care of. And then he's meeting Mark, the senator. That's the rest of that chapter. And he introduces himself as Zach when he does that. That's important. So now she's telling Daya, she goes, I don't even know his name. That's how the chapter starts. We're chapter 21 now. And Daya's like, oh, you had sex with him. And she's like, no. Kinda. And she goes, bitch, what the fuck? It's so funny. I love their dialogue. And she's like, well, was it consensual? And she explains what dubious consent is. And oh my God, I love this line. That man ate the soul out of my body and I don't think I've gotten it back yet. That's what she says about it. I H.G. Carlton has really good zingers. That's all I'll say. So now they talk about Gigi's case again.
Because part of why she's so desperate to prove, like, to solve the murder and prove that the stalker killed her is so she can rationalize in her own brain, this ain't healthy, this ain't good, this needs to stop because it happened to Gigi and it ain't happening to me.
Yeah. And she has internal dialogue where she's like, I mean, of course, like, I would be disappointed if I fell in love with him and then realized he was a creepy stalker. But she says, but then he'd be a different man. And then she's like, nope. Intrusive thoughts, get out.
Yeah.
So she's drunk and it's nighttime and she's like, I don't know how I'm gonna get my jeans off, whatever. The stalker will do it for me. So the amount of blushing, I know.
You know what?
Especially from me. My face gives everything away. It's so bad.
When you're in one of those outfits that are a bitch to take off and like there's no one at home to help you, I guess nights like those you kind of wish you would have a stalker.
And so
she wakes, so you can just wake up and be free.
So she wakes up and the first thing she says, "Oh great, you're here." Like she's not even scared anymore. She's just like, "Fuck's sake, hi, hello, how you doing?"
Look, I also do. There are multiple books and shows and stuff where like someone just like we'll use Twilight as the perfect example of someone just breaking into your house and watching you sleep.
Yeah.
At least he's honest about it, I guess.
You know, like if Zade is anything,
like,
he's an honest man.
like Edward's just like, I like watching you sleep. You look peaceful. And she's like, and neither of them acknowledge that it's creepy.
Well,
no, at least it's like, look, I know I'm a fucking creep. I know I'm a creep, but I'm your creep.
But also, in Twilight, it pops up out of nowhere. Like,
yeah, it's creepy in Twilight.
Like all of a sudden, you're just like,
I mean, it's creepy here too, but at the same time,
but it's also the point.
Yeah, and he's like, yeah, that's the point. In Midnight Sun, does Edward acknowledge that it's creepy? I can't remember.
I don't recall.
I hope he does. I hope he acknowledges.
Probably not.
I know I'm a fucking creep.
Edward's internal dialogue in Midnight Sun. I saw like a TikTok about it.
Pomegranate.
It was like,
yes.
No, Edward's. I saw a TikTok about it, and it was like when you read them side by side, it's like Bella's internal dialogue is like, huh. I wonder what he's thinking. That. Like, does he think I smell something? It's so weird. And then his internal dialogue is like, he's like, I'm a monster. I could kill it. I could kill it right now. Or I would have to kill everybody in this room. Like he's like his internal dialogue is like up here over the top. So much more.
Like, do I smell funky?
And she's just like,
it's two very different experiences.
Yeah, like Edward's internal dialogue is insane and ridiculous. Bella's is just kind of like normal teenage girl.
Yeah.
And insane and ridiculous in like a bad way. Because like here's the thing. There's like a trend now of
he brought oil so when he opened the window it wouldn't make noise. Jesus Christmas.
Come on. If you don't think Zade would do the exact same thing if she had a squeaky door?
Probably. He would WD-40 her house, yeah.
Yes. He would be like,
he's considerate.
WD-40. He would like start doing like repairs.
You know what? That's the detail I'm missing, right? Like the front door was squeaky at the beginning of the book. That's what should have happened.
It was squeaky, and then one day it just stopped, and she's like,
yes.
If we write one of these, we're putting that in.
When we
eventually write one of these.
And that should have been before like a rose was ever delivered to the house.
Yeah, like her door's really squeaky. Before the repairs start on the whole house, and Zade's just like, fuck's sake, I can't have this. Carbos.
What?
So cute. So they have wonderful banter here. She starts calling him Kitty Cat because she's Little Mouse. And he finds that amusing. And she's trying to get her skinny jeans off, and he's just watching her super amused. Just super amused by the situation. Oh, the first Oh man, this is one of the quotes I was going to put in the PowerPoint. I was going to make a PowerPoint, did not get home till midnight. That's the whole thing. So she's like, I don't even know your name, and he says, I'm going to have to censor this because I can't say some of these words. Zade, he whispers, that's the only name that will leave your lips from now on, especially when you're making that little bleh feel good. When I'm making that bleh feel good, then you can call me God. The audacity of this man.
I'm gonna cry.
The audacity of this man. And then she goes, I think Lucifer would suit you better. But she's like really hot and bothered at this moment. So it's a whole thing.
I'm just trying to think how I would react if my husband ever said that to me.
Yeah, I'd laugh.
I'd probably laugh.
I'd laugh. Because Christian and I were talking about it since he listened to part of it with me, and I was like, if you ever said these things, I would just laugh in your face.
And then like, I
Well,
mean,
'cause
okay, it's one thing, right? If he's just like, if you guys are like having like intentionally cringy banter, that's fine. If he was being earnest, you'd break his fucking heart.
I know.
I think.
I know. I'd still laugh.
I know, but like, if he's like actually like earnestly trying to like dirty talk and you just like burst out laughing,
he knows I would laugh because I find it so awkward. Like stuff like this. If anyone ever said this to me, I would laugh because I find it so awkward.
And I will say, look, things can get said to me during stuff without me laughing, but if we're just talking about it in advance.
I mean, that's what's happening right now with them, though.
Or immediately after, or anything. Like if the timing is not right, absolutely not, because I will laugh or just like not respond or like curl up in a ball and hide.
Yeah, right. Like I would just have an awkward reaction. But they're not even like making out at this point.
They're just chatting. They're just sitting there having a casual conversation, and I don't know if I could cope with that conversation in real life.
Then they have a weird interaction involving his anyways.
What was the weird interaction involving his
I can't talk about it.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't.
He smacks her face with his doodle. It's fine.
There's my ick. I found it. And then he's like, you want to know what the best part of this whole situation was? I wasn't going to bother you. I was going to tuck you in, take off your skinny jeans for you, and it'd be nice. But then you decided to be a little bitch. And then, yeah. And then this. This is when the book, like, it's like halfway through the book, and this is when it ramps the heck up. Because he's just out and about stalking her, as he does. And she's at a little like restaurant, and Mark, the senator, runs into him while he's stalking. Guy. Yeah, he's stalking Addie, and Mark's like, "Oh my God, Zach, hi!" And he's like, "Shit!" And Mark's like, "Let's go eat at this specific restaurant," and he's like, "I can't like act too crazy about it." So they sit down, and then Mark sees Addie after about an hour, and he takes a picture of her, and Zade's like, that's mine. That over there, that's mine.
She's my boo. We're a thing.
Yeah, and he's like, "Oh, why haven't you introduced me?" So he goes and walks over to her, and he's like, "Oh, hi, I hear you're Zach's girlfriend." And Zade is like behind her, going like, "Play along, bitch." And she does.
Yeah, and she stutters for a second there. I think like at first she's like, fuck?
Yeah, because also how weird would it be that you're just like out and about doing your thing and you see your stalker
she's just typing away,
and it's just like, "Oh, hi, light of day, good to see you, I guess."
And you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of like, so we live in Georgia, and if you don't know, the Vampire Diaries is filmed in Georgia, and like the Salvatore house is a real house.
Yes,
it's just a thing. And
it
at
looks
one-
like it's under contract now as well from the look of it.
well, and at one point,
Sorry.
my dad was at the Salvatore house and he took photos of it, and I told you about this when it happened, and
I forgot.
it was during daylight, and he sent me a picture of it he like sent me the listing, and all the photos were like in daylight and stuff. And it was so weird because now that I think about it, all of like the establishing shots of the Salvatore house in the show are all at night. And and I was like, honestly, it's weird that you used to see it during the day.
Yeah, right.
And I feel like it's kind of the same. Like, you know, all the other times we've talked to Zade, it feels like we're at night. You know, because he's like torturing and he's stalking, and so we're always at night. And then all of a sudden it's daylight, and you're like, that's weird. It's the same thing.
And
especially when they're daylight. Also, it's like, you know, oh hi Senator.
Yeah,
I've met your boyfriend.
Yeah, and it's like, you're a senator. You're what? And also he introduced himself as Zach, right? So he's like, so she's just like, generally, what the fuck? But she does play along, and he's like, oh, my girl, you know, she's working, and she's like, don't call me that, like with her eyes, and he's like, she's gonna hear me call her my girl for a long time. Next, we'll graduate to my wife, and then the mother of my children. And I thought that was sweet.
Yeah,
I thought that was nice. So then they sit down and chat for a minute, and then he's like, the senator is like, oh, what were you working on? She's like, oh, I was investigating the cold case of my Gigi's murder. Casual. And then he's like, oh, no way, I grew up with Serafina, which is her grandmother, which also tells you how old this senator is, which
yeah, especially because Nana, didn't Nana die when she was like 91? I'm pretty sure there was a reference to Nana being 91 when she died.
Dang. So this man's old.
I don't like. I'm gonna go died.
While you do that, I'm gonna keep going. So we're 2 hours and 20 minutes in.
Yeah, keep going.
Because we're only halfway through this book now.
Yes, we are.
And like things just get even more insane. So he's like, oh, well, you guys should come to my ball next weekend. And they're like, no. And he's like, but I'll tell you more about your Gigi's death. And she's like, ugh, okay. So then Senator leaves. He gets called away. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
This whole thing gets grosser because Nana was 91 when she died. How old was she when she bred? And
my grandmother,
yes, but that answers the question.
But a grandparent being like 90 when you're in your 20s is even less crazy. Like,
yeah,
it's just my
like, I know that might still be like, my
parents are in their 80s and I'm like 33.
Yeah, I mean,
my granddad was born in 28.
My grandfather was born in 1912. No, 1909.
I don't know what year my pop was born, but my nan was born in 44.
That's so weird. See, to me, because like, all my grandparents were so old, to me, like, grandparents are all 90.
Yeah, I only have one grandparent left, and she's like barely older than my dad.
Honestly, it just always confused me, especially like as a kid when people would be like, "This is my grandparent," and they would be like 60. I was like, why was your grandma a teenage mom? Why'd she have kids at 10?
Yeah,
I was like,
I'll tell you something. My mother was 42 when she became a grandmother, and the pregnancy that made her a grandmother and her pregnancy with the child, which had the grandchild, neither of them involved teen pregnancy.
No, I know.
21.
Like,
No,
I understand
I
that now
understand 40.
as an adult.
I also understand 42 is generally young to become.
That is
a
young,
grandparent.
but like
But it shouldn't be.
I understand that. Like, I understand that now as an adult that like my circumstances are abnormal because my grandmother was 43 when she had my father, and my father was 41.
Yeah.
When he had me. So like, you know, that's a pretty big age gap like between all of us.
Yeah, and like my mom is gonna be a grandma in her 50s.
Yeah, like my fiance's parents are younger than my parents, but like, you know, like I said, when I was
I will say,
younger,
I just because Nana died a year before this book, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So at age 26, so 91 minus 25 is 89, and then you divide that by 2, and the average age that Nana was when she had mum and that mum was when she had her was 45 and a half years old. Or 44 and a half years old.
I mean, it's possible.
I know, but she doesn't talk about her mother like her mother's like in her late 60s.
Wait, 89? No, she wouldn't have been 89.
She'd been 70.
Oh, wait. Okay, so look.
Yeah.
Sorry, 91 minus
26.
25. Sorry.
Oh, 25, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what I hit. Maybe I hit the wrong stuff because I'm really tired. I'm sorry. Divided by 2. So, why am I hitting the wrong number? What was the age again?
I got it.
Thank you, because I keep hitting the wrong number on the calculator. Maybe it's like 30.
32.
Not crazy.
Okay, that's not bad then.
No.
Yeah, it's not crazy. I mean, it's a little older, but it's not crazy. Like,
yeah. Okay.
I forgot to hit the 5 the first time I did it, so it just came up 89. I was just like, yep, cool. Let's keep going.
So
anyway.
So she's like, so they walk away to her car, and she's like, okay, listen, we're gonna go to this fucking ball, and then you and I are just gonna we're just gonna break up, and maybe you'll stop stalking me. And he's like, oh, baby girl, I'm never gonna stop stalking you. You and I are forever. We're endgame. Yeah, we're endgame, babe. And she's like, what the fuck?
I fucking stan. I'm sorry.
Yeah, right. It's our D&D campaign right now. It's very funny.
No, it is actually funny. Like,
we'll have to tell you about it another time.
Okay.
So she's like, I hope you go to jail and I hope you get the death sentence. And he's like, will you be my last meal? And she's like, what the fuck, Zade?
No, he has no fucking chill. He doesn't care.
It's so funny. And it's so funny. He and her sort of make out like heavily against her car, and a little girl is like, mommy, are they having sex? It's the funniest fucking thing. And she just like runs away. And then
I would too.
Yeah. The next chapter is her talking to Di, and she's like, so Zade and I are going on a date to a senator's ball. And Di is like, you're doing what? So that's happening.
Yeah, I will say, especially in the next book, I'm sorry, like Di, because she's the only one that kind of knows like the majority of the extent of their relationship.
Yeah,
right? She's just fine with it. She's fine.
Like, you're dumb. She's like, you're dumb, but you know, go off, I guess.
Like
that's a whole thing.
Yeah, like she's just like they're hanging out, they're being bestest buds, and like, yeah, sure, at that point he's rescued her from a trafficking ring and stuff, but it's also like, yeah, but
I think the fact of the matter is though, like, and I think we all know this, for a book like this to work, you know,
you can't have a voice of reason.
Well, not only that, but like you have to allow some point where like a character is not going to react the way a real person would react. Like,
I know. Yeah. I feel like the only person who reacted appropriately is her father. It was like, you and him meeting is the worst thing to ever happen to any of our lives.
Yes.
Also, I think Jay reacts.
Oh, like, Jay reacts. Yeah, he's like, y'all are fucking weird.
What the fuck, dude?
So, he picks her up and he looks hot as hell, of course, and she's like, and he's like holding her hand like this, and he's like, I'm trying to picture which ring would look best on your finger, and so sweet. It's very sweet. And then she's like, oh, you don't own me, you're not gonna propose to me and all this stuff. Otto, I will fight you. Don't eat my charging cord, please. So then she performs fellatio. And now I have to tap through that because it's a really long time. And then, okay, so now they drive, and he's like, here's what I do for a living, by the way. So, like, they have a nice little chat, and she's like, oh. So he's like a good guy.
Yeah.
And
it
so they get to the ball, they get to the ball.
And the senator's like, come meet me in an hour, and they're like, cool. So then they go find the home movie room.
Yes.
Like the theater room. And
yes.
And
yes. And
I will say,
perform sexual actions.
I will say,
and this is
ain't no one got stamina like a romance novel character.
God,
right?
No. I
like,
know.
Always.
I feel like she should be chafing upon her chafing at this point.
Yes. But they're doing.
Oh, well, maybe have they actually had sex yet?
Nope, they don't have sex till the Hall of Mirrors.
That's right, though. But his hands are always up there, so yeah, she'd still have chafing, so it's all good.
And she goes, "Oh God," like in the moment, and then he says, "That's right, I am your God." We stand. And she's like, this is whatever. So then they go meet with him, and he's like, no, they talk about Gigi, and he's like, yeah, we think that John, the husband, killed Gigi, not Ronaldo.
Because his dad was friends with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Sarah was older me. So Sarah is 6 years older than Mark. So he is.
He's 86.
He's 86.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which
is
right now that's reasonable. Yeah, right now though it's reasonable for fucking politicians. Sorry.
Yeah. So yeah, he's like,
I know. I just in my head, because I knew that, although it wasn't mentioned until the very end of the book that she was 91 when she died. So I guess I was always just picturing like someone in like their 60s or something.
Yeah, right.
I was picturing someone older because that's like my personal experience, but I guess we're all kind of like that, right?
Yeah.
Like we all
we project.
I know. I'm just saying that, like, look, the stuff that he's involved in is bad enough, but when you add like an extra like 20 something years of like aging to it, it's even grosser to me. How old is his wife then? I feel like he married younger.
Probably. So like probably 60s or 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyways, so they leave, and Zade starts training her like in hand-to-hand defense, combat, all that stuff.
Yeah, because Zade's like, I don't trust this motherfucker.
Yeah.
He's a trafficker.
Obviously they talk throughout this and like have more witty banter. It's a whole thing. Then Zade, she's sleeping, and guess who's there? Because of
always.
Who's
I saw a
there.
review that was like, Alexa, play Every Breath You Take by the Police.
Yes. And he's
well, that
like,
song actually is about stalking, so it works.
Yeah, he's like in a really sad mood. Like he's not being bantery with her, and she's like, I don't like this. So like they like just talk, and like it's a very good scene where they just like chat, and he like tells her what happened. A little girl died. And so they have a nice conversation, and they have some cuddles and make out. And he's like, and she asks him to boink her, and he says not yet.
Because
And
he
that-
doesn't want it to be like
a pity.
emotional pity boinking.
Yeah.
So he goes for crazy reflective boinking instead.
Yes.
Yes.
That feels like an appropriate first boink.
Then it's time for Satan's affair. So Daya and we're almost there. We're 65% through.
Jesus Christ.
Daya and her, I'm going as fast as I can.
I know,
Daya
I
and
know.
her go to Satan's affair. It literally does not matter, but they see Mark.
They go through stuff.
Yeah, they do that. Zade's there stalking as always, but he's also stalking Mark. And Mark,
he notices that Mark and his buddies look like they're gonna go after her.
Yes, but they didn't.
But they were.
And
If not for Sibby.
Yeah.
And yeah.
He meets Sibby, and then that chapter ends, and then
Yeah.
We go back to chapter 29, the Hall of Mirrors.
Yep. So she's like, I want to go in there, and Daya's like,
I'm not gonna go in there. Yeah, like my feet are sore. I'm not gonna go in there. You go by there by yourself. So she goes in there, and then she hears Little Mouse and Sue, like the most long.
They play a game of cat and mouse.
Yes, and the longest boinking scene ever. It's literally
2.5 hours of boinking.
Yeah, 2.5 hours of it.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
Chapter 30 is just them.
Oh, we also get to see just how. Okay, so like, there's lots of things that he does and says, and she's like, "What if someone sees?" Because again, there are no reflect. Like, I've never been in one, but I know what they're supposed to look like. And like,
yeah, right.
It looks like someone.
I've been in one.
It's like right behind you.
Yeah.
All that stuff, and she's like, "We're in an incredibly reflective room. What if someone sees?" And he goes, "Let them watch." And she's like, "You would let them blur?" And he's like, "Well, no, I'd let them watch, and then I'd kill them for daring to watch you."
Yeah. It do be what it do be.
So he's a possessive expositionist, I guess.
Yes. And then we get my favorite line in a book ever. In this scene. That's right. I am your fucking god. The audacity of this man.
And that continues as well. Oh, I died in Hunting when they've done their version of the culling, and what's his face, Xavier's like tied up on a chair or whatever.
Yeah.
And what's he do? Is he finger banging her in front of Xavier?
I don't
just be like,
remember.
Just be
I
like,
think so.
Lol, you thought she was yours, but she's not.
But you thought, yeah.
And then she mutters, "Oh God!" And she's like, "Yeah, did you say that when you were with him?" And she's like, "Yes." And he looks at Xavier and he's like, "That's right, just talking about me, not you. Fuck you."
So
I died when he's doing that. I'm like, why are we doing this? Hunting was weird. Hunting
was weird. Haunting, incredible. Hunting, odd. So he's also he very much has a breeding kink where he's like, I want you to have my babies, and she's like, well, I'm on birth control, and he's like, for now. And her phone is like buzzing like crazy. She didn't notice it till now because they're done now. And Daya is like, where are you? Freaking out. They go outside. And Zade's like, come on, guys, let's go out this way. Or no, he does not. She's like, I don't want Daya to see you. So she goes and finds
cool.
Daya.
I got a date with Crazy anyway.
Yes, exactly. And Daya's like, you look like you just had sex, and chapter ends. Okay, chapter 31 is just getting Mark, killing Mark, and his other guys.
And they let it. Did we see in that chapter that his wife was actually there and they let her go?
I don't.
Okay, well that happened in Satan's Affair when they first team up.
Mm-hmm.
So this is before the blinking.
Yeah.
Claire is there.
Yeah.
And they're like, look, how do you want to go about this? And she goes, you're good. And she's kind of like, bye. Because she's always covered in bruises, like he beats the shit out of her. So she's like, cool, bye. And yeah, believes him. And they're like, okay, you can go because you're a victim. And yeah, so that's, I think because you're meant to know that, that's what's meant to make it be like a bigger betrayal because Zade actually let her go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Sibby takes the fall for the murders. Thank you, Sibby. So they kill them. It's fine. Whatever. He goes to the creepy club.
I think he gets some trafficking information out of Mark a little bit before he kills him.
Yeah, and whatever. It's more of that, of him getting that. Addie sees on the news that Mark has been killed and sees that some girl did it. It's Sibby. And so he's here. Hi, of course he is. I'm the problem. It's me. That's Zade.
Yeah.
And then she's like about to call the cops on him, and he's like, Addie, we had sex. I thought we were past this now. Like, I thought we were done with the cops and the whole thing. And so she runs around in the woods. She runs away into the woods. And she's like, I hate you. Like, whole thing. And she's like, I'll never let you boink me again. And he's like, you wanna freaking bet. So yeah, they're running through the woods. He catches her. And she's like, Zade's not going anywhere, is he?
No.
So they
stuff.
They do things.
Yeah. There's a lot of them doing things.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep. I'm just tapping through. Yep. A lot of good zingers in here. There's a lot of good one-liners in this one. And then anyway.
Oh God, what?
You have 5 seconds before I rearrange your organs.
Yeah.
So they just,
you know how I said before, like sometimes like there's some things that can be said when like in the right circumstance at the exact right. I don't feel like there's ever a time for that.
Yeah, right. So they do it all night long. Next morning, they're like chilling on her balcony, like, an old married couple, very sweet. And then Daya walks in and is like, what is this? And so she tries to like attack Zade, and Zade's like, please, I sign your paycheck, sweetie. You don't want to fight me. And she's like, oh my God, you are my boss. Hi. And then
yeah, and that automatically makes all the creepy shit he's done okay because he rescues children. That is the point. I feel like that is the entire point of his other life is just everything's okay because he saves children.
Yes. And he's like, I gotta do work. You can tell Daya whatever you want. I trust you. So she tells her kind of everything that's going on. We're almost done. We are almost done. I swear. Yeah. We're 88% of the way through. She finds a letter that was addressed to Gigi from Ronaldo. About how, like, oh wait, no, it's not from Ronaldo. It's from your true love. And it's like, I've loved you forever and blah, 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 blah. It's creepy.
Yeah.
And then we figure out that, hang on. Do we figure it out? No, we don't.
No, because they send away,
yes, they find
handwriting analysis.
Yes, they find a watch, and they send handwriting analysis to some people that she knows. And then Zade does more breaking up of trafficking rings.
Yeah. In his
As he
scenes,
does.
if he's not stalking her, that's what he's doing. He's doing
Yeah.
something trafficking related. Or
So
anti-trafficking, I guess.
and then we find out that Frank, aka Mark's dad, is the one that killed Gigi.
Yeah.
Because he had been in love with her forever, etc., etc., etc.
And he couldn't have her, and she, didn't cheat on her husband with him. He cheated on her husband with a guy named Ronaldo, who died from broken heart syndrome after she died. It's very sad.
Yeah. Oh, and then the conversation that her and Zade have about this, by the way.
Oh yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
maybe we're reincarnations of Gigi
Yes.
and
And I was like, no.
And he's like, listen, maybe we are, but in this lifetime, you're mine, sweetheart. Yeah.
Yeah, well, he's just like, that makes it even more romantic. I've been chasing you for multiple lifetimes.
Yeah.
I've had enough of reincarnation though. I'm good.
Honestly, after Fallen, yeah, I'm good. So now, he's been gone for a few days, and he told her he's gonna be gone for a few days, and she's like, I miss him. We find out it's been 3 months since the stalking has begun, and absence makes the heart grow fonder, because at this point, we as the reader know she is in love with him. And there's a line that says, this could be a book based on the attraction between two opposite souls, which that's one cringe factor for me when the book is like, whatever.
Yeah, I don't like when books are like, this is real life, not the movies. Or this is real life, not one of your stupid books. And I'm like, shut up.
He breaks up
That was
this is quite literally a book.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So he finishes breaking up his sex ring, ritualistic ring, and he goes into her house, and she's sleeping as you do.
Is that the night that he rescues the little girl that she's like, will you adopt me?
Yes, and they're about to have that conversation.
And he actually has the earnest thought in his head, only if Addie will approve.
Yes, it's and he gets
I take it there ended up being no need to adopt her because
she's never mentioned again.
She's never mentioned again.
So, oh no, she is. She's in hunting. She's in the house that Zade has.
That's right. Yeah.
So she wakes up and she's like, "Why are you staring at me like a creep?" And he's like, "How many times do we have to go over this situation?" And so they chat. They boink.
Of course they do.
And she calls him baby, and he's like, I have been thrown for a loop. So it's like very nice. It's like a very pretty vanilla boink scene. And then he says, run. So he chases her around the house. And then he has one of the most iconic lines from this book. Let me know which stars you prefer, the ones above you or the ones that make you see. Whole thing. And then they talk about the little girl I saved, she asked if I'd be your daddy. And he's like, I wasn't going to do it because of you. And she's like, why would my opinion matter? And he's like, because if I become a daddy, you become a mommy. We're endgame. And she's like, but she doesn't say like, no, we're not doing that.
Yeah, none of this like you're a weirdo. No, stop. No. She just lets it hang.
He goes back to the child sex ring thing. The society is what they're called. And that's when with Daya is there with him. And that's when we have the you, and we figure out who's actually like behind all of it. We don't find out, but it's Claire, Mark's wife. And then we see a news thing we're in the last chapter. We see a news thing from Addie's point of view where it's like 75-year-old cold case solved because she solved it. It's great. And then she talks to her mom about it, and she misses Zade again. Daya, quote unquote, Daya texts her and saying, "Are you awake? Can you come over?" So she goes over and she is kidnapped, and that's it. That's the
Yeah.
book. Woo!
Now here's the thing, like, hunting Adeline is like literally she gets kidnapped, she gets tortured, and then
literally 50% of the book is her being tortured, raped. All
by
of
the
that.
way, it's
and
book
they're
2
trying to
bullshit.
find her.
It is
Yeah.
book 2 bullshit, because what do we do in book 2 bullshit? We separate the love interest and then they get back together. And whether it is by like
choice or by circumstance.
And here's the thing, like when it's primarily a romance novel, it's especially annoying because also without fail, all you have to do is go to the 50% mark, and guess what? They're back together.
Yeah.
So the other thing is like, say like the Mercy books, for example, them being separated, like Adam and Mercy, is like fine because the plot is not contingent on Adam and Mercy being together.
You mean like physically currently in each other's presence.
Right, because Adam is not like he's in all the books obviously, but he could theoretically not be in the books
and the book would still work.
And it would make a difference, but like he could not be there. And there are some books where he's not in it. He's actually not in it that much.
Yeah. And you don't necessarily also mind the circumstances separating them in Silence Fallen, for example, because we're 10 books in at that point.
Yeah, it's actually kind of fun that they're not together. I don't know, like.
Yeah,
it's actually kind of interesting for them to not be together. Because she actually she's off on her own. She's actually doing some
and she's going
stuff
off
by
on
herself.
adventures and stuff.
There are a number of times where Mercy's isolated, and that's actually like part of it.
Because it's not, like the Mercy books aren't romance books. There might be occasional subplots that involve the romance or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
More often in the earlier books, they'll play bigger roles, but in general, not really. So yeah, I guess because like their romance is just like there and existing.
But like for example, in the Alpha and Omega books, Charles and Anna are rarely separated.
Yeah, but again, though, I feel like if they ended up getting, and actually there is one. The only book I can think of where something bad does happen is when she gets kidnapped in the cave by the werewolf, like the Fae werewolf hunters. Other than that, I don't think there's much of that at all.
But like in romance novels where we're following the same characters from multiple books, there's a lot, especially after the first book, there's a lot of like we separate for reasons and then we come back together and stuff. And it's
and you can never get immediately right back together. There's got to be like shit going on.
Well, and it's and again, without fail, you can pretty much always just go to the 50% mark and you've skipped it.
Yeah, because like the first half of this book is she's kidnapped and trafficked and the stuff.
All the things.
He's trying to find her. And the second half is effectively them just exacting revenge in her healing process.
And she's now a murderer too.
And it's not to say that it's a bad book necessarily, but unless like you also enjoy this type of book, which I really don't, you're not gonna like it like as the way that you liked the first one because it's a different genre.
Different.
Like it's just not the same. And if you like the second book, you're not gonna like it for the same reasons that you liked the first book.
Yeah.
But
and it's so weird because Hunting Adeline has technically a higher rating than Haunting Adeline.
Well, the reason, so a lot of times that happens, like subsequent books and series happen because anybody that didn't like the first book didn't read the second book.
That's very true.
And so the people that like rated the first book 5 stars are going to read the second book and probably still give it a high rating. And you know,
But if all
people,
the 1-star people don't read the second one, then
and there's a lot of 1-star reviews of Haunting Adeline that are like, he's stalking her, there's dubious consent, and
Yeah.
I think is like a very weird complaint to have.
Because it's like you knew what you were getting
that's
into.
the point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like reading I don't know, it's like reading a sci-fi book and being like, it's in space.
Yeah, right.
I'm like,
Or a dystopian book and being like, the world's a mess.
and being like, it was sad. There were, I don't know, or reading like a medieval fantasy book and being like, there were no flushing toilets.
Yeah, no, it's, look, because also, let's be honest, the majority of people that have read this book already knew probably the gun scene. Like, I've started
That's
from
probably
the first,
when people DNF'd and
yeah, I feel like the majority of the people who read this book without knowing at least that the gun scene is a thing that happens, even if they don't know the full details of it, they were in the first 10% at best, the people that read this book.
yeah, and like the really good reviews, as in like actually really good informative reviews of Hunting Adeline, they're mid-range reviews, and it's like it's because like
It's just a different book to the first.
it's a completely different genre. It's a completely different book. It's not a dark romance. It's just dark. It's just sad and dark.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, that's really not what you're there for, you know?
Yeah.
Because like I personally don't like reading like super dark books.
Yeah, like
that
just
are just
dark.
sad. So
I
probably like I don't
Like,
really
look, this
think
one
I
was
would be
creepy,
in.
but it was fun. The second
Yeah,
one
This
is
one was
just,
this book is so fun, and people can judge the crap out of us for liking
I don't
it.
care. But like for
It's
example,
it's good.
I don't think I would actually enjoy Colleen Hoover at all. Because I don't like being upset by something. And you know, even if it's good, I don't like watching sad movies.
Yeah, so that's
I
the
have
thing.
to be in a very particular mood if we're gonna watch like a sad movie or something. And
That's
I'm like,
also
and I
why
need a palate cleanser afterwards.
that's also
'Cause-
why you would not like Darling Venom.
Okay. Yeah, like I just if it's gonna be like a dark romance, like it needs to balance it out with some kind of something.
levity.
And also like dark romances that really deal with a lot of personal issues are usually not for me. I
Yeah,
prefer like the dark romances that are more like external. Like this was more like an externally dark romance rather than an internally dark romance, you know.
Yeah, whereas
And
the second
I
one
prefer
goes into
yeah
darkness.
the second one's like internally dark, which is not my cup of tea, you know. So
Yeah.
and it, obviously all that's down to personal preference. You know, it just depends on what you're there for.
Yeah.
But you know, if you want more of what's in the first book, that's not what's happening in the second book.
No, not at all.
No.
Because
And
I mean, if you want even by the end of the
closure
first
to
book,
finish the story, then read the second one.
Yes.
I mean, but you can also just headcanon that like the ending of the second book happened at the end of the first book.
Yeah.
Like if you could also just go to the end of the second book and like read the epilogue.
If you want to read anal, yes, that's what you can do.
Yeah.
Because that's literally what it is.
Or just know that like they get married.
They
like,
have a happy ending. They do have a happy ending.
Yeah, there's a happily ever after.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, it would have worked just fine at the end of the first book.
Yeah, I agree.
But you wanted to write a torture porn. I do have a question.
Yeah.
So this relates, like, we get a brief touch of this in the first book, but it's more plot involved in the plot in the second one. So, because Mark was worried that, not Mark, Zade was worried that Mark was targeting her because of him, because he was there and it was a thing. Turns out, no, she had already been chosen and he just happened to see her there and was like, oh, and then, you know, he's like, oh, crap type thing. So the traffic and then in the second book, she's like the diamond. She's super rare, special, you know, like high value. Why? Like,
You know-
are we ever actually told why? Because I mean, like I know
No.
they have to be more cautious with her because of Zade, but he's not the reason why. And they're like, and like it's even mentioned as well, like, because when she gets back, the media and paparazzi and stuff are hanging outside the house for a while because she's a famous author.
Yes.
Having read some of her other work, I think actually the point in that, because she doesn't always have like a point, but having read some of her other stuff, I think the point is that there is no reason, because like, you know, she's not always being super serious about it, about like that kind of messaging. But I think one of the reasons why she doesn't really give you an elaborate backstory to Zade's stalking or an elaborate backstory to why she's chosen is because a lot of times the reasoning for why people get victimized isn't.
But just how she's meant to be like super valuable, like to the point where like the other girls, they can get harmed, this, that, or the other, but they want to
but like I said, I think it's kind of the point though.
Okay.
There's not really like in real life. There's never really logic behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Just having read some of her other work, I think that is
okay.
I think it's not. I don't think it's like a whole.
I know.
I think it's just meant to reflect like that is just how it works. There's just not ever really a logical explanation that can satisfy you, or that there's just no logic when a person's making that decision because they're not really deciding. It just is.
Yeah. Fair enough. Also, though, now that because that's just triggered my brain to go to another thing as well. I think because the second book has instead of Gigi's journal, it's Molly's journal. That then Addie starts writing in.
Oh yes, yeah. That's the journal aspect of the second one.
The way the book ends, though, is the note from Rio. I feel like it's a stupid. Like I could not think of a stupider way to end this book than that note.
Also, I think you could draw the conclusion that her connection to her grandmother might be part of it, why she's valuable.
Oh, yeah.
Because Mark grew up with her grandmother, and then her great-grandmother died.
Yes.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
But you could draw the conclusion that might raise her value in his eyes or something. Mm-hmm. But I think overall, like, just with people like that, even people like Zade, like the actual logic is never...
Yeah. Or it could even...
It's always irrational.
Yeah, that said as well, it could be that she was chosen for whatever reason they decided to choose her in the first place. But then the fact that she's not just Zade's girl, she's Z's girl. So maybe that, because she's the prize then at that point. So maybe they're two separate things.
Yeah, well, and it's like at first maybe that's why she was targeted, but then it became she's
like because it's the ultimate fuck you to him because
the person trying to take him down. Yeah.
I mean, I think you could draw all those conclusions, and I think you could also just draw that like it's irrational, and the logic is always irrational and unknowable, and kind of like it could happen to anybody sort of thing.
Yeah, but sorry, now I'm just changing because my brain's starting to hurt just thinking about. I don't want to think about fucking trafficking. That's fine.
You're fine.
Yeah.
I do like in Hunting though in the second half when Sibby rocks up and just like because we get a few time jumps, right? Like we get like 2 months here, a month there, 6 months.
It's been about the book spans about like what 2 years, 1 to 2 years,
something like that. And Sibby's on the run, and she's living.
Oh, Sibby lives with them. Yeah, like the whole thing. Sibby moves in.
And she ends up like they have to keep like saying to her like, "No, Sibby, we will not orgy with you, especially and we will not orgy with." And Sibby, you need to stop having sex with your henchman.
Sibby, stop being naked in the living room.
And then, like, when they start, like, flirting with each other and Sibby starts undressing, they're like, Sibby, no, you're not invited to our sexy time.
Yeah.
And she's like, but fucking why? And then Sibby has the audacity to be like, just because you guys want to be boring.
Yeah. Yeah.
As
it's
if they're
like,
boring. Yeah, like it's a thing. Anyway,
But
But
well,
I feel like Sibby was the best part of.
I love
Yeah.
that.
Sibby
Like
is
we
the
were
best
like, we're
part of the
just gonna
second
do
book.
Haunting Adeline, but then we did 3 books.
Yeah,
in
we
one.
did 3.
So,
Yep.
so anyway, that
That's
was
the
Zade Club with Faye.
That was Zade Club.
Um,
Sadly, we will never have Zade Club with Faye again because there will
that's
be no
okay.
more Zade. But
But we might
will live
we
on
might do some
forever
more.
on.
We might do some more romance novels in the future.
yeah, we don't actually have what our next book is planned yet. We have Rex, but
Yeah.
Well, I
But
thought we said we were gonna do
Oh, are we gonna do Akatar?
Don't know.
we
I
can
thought
do
we were
Akatar.
talking about doing that. Yeah, I know we were talking about doing it. But...
We can do Akatar next. I know we also got a rec from.
Yes, from Dragon.
Yes, and
Yes.
so we can. So we can do Akatar because Akatar won't take long. There's not that many books in the series.
And one of them's a novella.
Yeah, one of them's a novella, so we can do Akatar, and then we can do
3
the series
novella and
that
then Silver Flames.
we can do the series that he recommended.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the plan.
Excellent.
And fun.
What is happening?
Exciting.
rose.
Akatar.
All
What,
right.
did he ask what's
so-
on my head?
Yes,
It's a rose.
it's a rose.
Because he gets
Anyway.
a rose.
Obviously.
So
Noah.
thank you all. Thank you all for participating, and we will see everybody next time. Bye bye.